It is Willy and DMase here on this Wednesday afternoon. It's a hot one. It's a hot one throughout the day. What do you like to call it, DMase? The oil slick or what is it called? Grease fire?
How does fish grease?
Fish grease. Today is definitely one of those days, and tomorrow is going to be as well. It's fish grease time. It is hot, but we have got it rolling today. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan joined us again. He is going to be with us for the rest of the week. We're excited to have him, and we're going to talk a lot of Titans today. The cut downs have been made. Nick Frazier is behind the glass, ready to roll. We've got Jonathan Hutton at noon today. We're going to mix in some college football. It is game week. In fact, Dagwood, one of the members of our staff, is full on orange. He's got the Eric Berry full orange Vols jersey from Throwback. So I was reminded, like, hey, man, it is college football time. But Adam, welcome back. You ready to crank it up? DMase, I think, he told us just seconds ago that he's got something on his mind.
Yeah, I do. I'm riding down the street, and I stop at the gas station.
Adam, I'm saying to myself, where is this going?
It's not. So I stop at the gas station, get some water, and as I get back in my car, my text message go off, and I'm like, well, who's texting this, late in the morning? They know I'm getting whoever people I usually text with are the kids this early. They know I'm at work. So who's texting me? So I look at the number, and it's 678. I'm like, who in the hell is a 678 area code? I didn't even know the area code. I know it now. But here's the message that I got. Hi, Dr. Mason. I had to stop because I'm like, when did I become a doctor? I mean, I know my son is going to med school, but that's not until next year.
We're off to a good start.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Mason.
Exactly.
We're off to a good start.
They say, hi, Dr. Mason. Benevis currently has available dentist positions in Georgia. I'm like, okay, all right. FT in Savannah, FT in Macon, FT in Columbus offers up to $75K sign-on bonus for 5 days a week. FT in College Park, FT in Decatur offers up to $50,000 sign-on bonus. A FT traveling Georgia dentist position is also available. Non-specialist oral surgeon positions are available in several locations in Georgia for dentists with extensive extraction experience. The last thing I probably extracted was a splinter the other day in my hand. I mean,
did you perform successful surgery?
It was successful.
Okay, it was a success.
Yeah, it might have bled a little bit too much.
Maybe this guy caught wind of that.
And I as we all do, I just put my finger in my mouth and kind of, suck the blood away, and I was good. That was my suture for today, for that day. But they said they got referrals and everything. They, advised me to talk to somebody named Dr. Susan Edwards, the talent acquisition source. So I'm just trying to figure out, should I return the text message and say I'll take the job? But you have to send me some money first. You have to send me my sign-on bonus first.
I think it would be fun just to call Dr. Susan and just see what's going on. Hey.
Like, where did you get my name from?
Yeah.
Who recommended me?
Adam, did you get any text from a doctor this morning, or any job opportunities? Or
I haven't, but somewhat recently, I kept getting phone calls from a preschool that was not my son's preschool, saying that I was scheduled for a tour for a child that wasn't mine. It was like, hey, we're calling from XYZ. We know that you want to take a tour with little Julia or something like that. Julia. And I was like, it may have not have been Julia, but that's
Julia.
I was just like, well, first of all, I have a son.
Uh-huh.
His name is not Julia. I was like, it was very strange. It was some sort of network of daycares that like 3 different people called me from 3 different locales. It may have been 3 different names of different children, but it was certainly not my own. But I have not received any job offers via text today.
No. But maybe they were just calling a blind call and just stumbling. Let's just see if this guy has any kids.
Yeah,
we'll get the name wrong. Oh, I'm sorry, but you do have a son?
Oh, bring him on in. So people,
would he like to take a tour? Yeah.
If you think I should respond back with, hey, listen, I'll take the job, or I'm not looking for a job currently, or check back with me in like 10 years when I actually do go to med school, which I'm never going to do. Check back with me in 10 years and see if I am willing to take the job. What should I do? Because I just got this. Somebody gave them my information. Somebody gave them a referral. Again, my son is the one that is going to med school, not his dad. But hey, if you want to pay me $75K sign on, give it to me. Send me the check. I'll take it.
Don't be an anti-dentite. There's your Seinfeld. There's your Seinfeld reference for today. Derek, don't be an anti-dentite.
Okay,
If I'm you, DMase, like, is it so your kid's going to med school, right?
Yeah.
He's in
But
it right
it's
now.
not Dennis yet.
Oh,
No,
okay.
he's going to go back to med school.
You should say, hey, check back in about 3 years or however long dental school is. Like, that's
But
when
he's
we
not
go.
going for dentist, but
Oh.
I just figured, dental
You know
school.
anybody that's going into dental school?
Can I work?
Or
I
don't?
mean, they offered me the job. They're offering me a position potentially, but I haven't extracted anything but a splinter. You guys got a toothache or something that I can kind of work on here?
Hey, tell me, a Dr.
Later.
Crane.
Yeah.
I can work on some teeth if need be. I can do that.
What should I do, people? I don't
Okay.
know.
Austin and Franklin on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I used to sign my best friend up for random jobs, events, etc., and let them blow his phone and email up. He finally caught on it was me. So have you angered anybody lately that might be pretending to be
No.
a dentist?
Ooh, I don't know.
Good question.
I don't know.
And to
I
build
anger-
on the
I think I
Seinfeld,
angered my
there's also the
girlfriend, but
George
that's it.
Costanza. The George Costanza method is just to, apply for a job, not know if you get it or not, but just show up for the job. Remember, he just said, I
Yeah.
show up. So you could just do this.
Yeah.
You got the text. You don't
Yeah.
have to call, but just find out where this place is and just start showing up for work.
Well, they gave me some locations.
We can find you
Whichever one is closest to
we can find
Nashville.
you a
Right.
white coat and
Right.
That's the
Just
scope.
show up.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever tools you need.
Exactly. What do dentists need?
My
I don't-
son-
you
my
don't
son
even have
got
to know.
a-
You just go ask the assistant there. Where do you have the tools for Dr. Mason? Do you have my kit?
my son
And then
got
see
a
what they give you.
my son got a toy for his birthday that was like it was like a lion, but it had like you could extract teeth. It was like a dentist kit. I can bring his plastic
Oh,
drill
please do, yeah.
and his plastic drill and his little mirror, and it's got the bad teeth and with cavities. I can bring those for you. See, I extracted these bad teeth. See, I know what I'm doing. So
Oh man, yeah, I got that. So I just wanted to get that out. I just wanted to tell the people.
Yeah. How do we
you know,
respond to
how
this?
do I respond to someone mistaking me for a dentist?
there are worse things you could be mistaken
no, you're
for.
absolutely right, Adam. I'm not complaining here. I'm just trying to figure out, should I take the job or not? That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm weighing my options here.
Dr. Mason.
Exactly. I like that.
Well, we'll see if they get back to you during the show. I mean, it could be a great third career for you.
Yeah, you're right.
Football
about that.
player, radio host, dentist. That's a trifecta that not very many people can say.
I can't say too many. I don't know anybody in the world that has done that.
No, you would be one of one.
Exactly. I like
And
that.
speaking of, well, let's talk about not one of 53. We'll talk about 53 because the Titans might be 52. I don't know the exact number, but the Titans 53-man roster is in. It was due yesterday afternoon after we got off the air. Now, if you saw the roster and you were upset about it or confused by it or whatever, these things change. These rosters are going to change tomorrow when waiver activity picks up around the NFL. Players are put onto practice squads. There's going to be a lot of change in rosters between now and the official start of the NFL regular season. But the Titans roster is in, and there were a few things that stood out to me that I think stood out to a lot of people as well. Well, one thing that we mentioned yesterday, Derek, as we were getting off the air, we were talking about running back. We thought Hassan Haskins was perhaps a shoo-in to be the third running back. He was cut. Julius Chestnut on the team. 5 tight ends the Titans have kept at this point, and 4 cornerbacks. 2 of which barely practiced. One is a rookie, and Jarvis Brownlee. So a lot of interesting things so far on this roster. So when you look at the Titans roster as it currently stands, knowing full well that it's going to change as soon as tomorrow, what was the most surprising, most shocking thing that we saw once the Titans submitted their roster to the NFL?
I would think, at least for me, one is the, Hassan Haskins deal. Because Hassan Haskins was prior to him getting injured and some off the field things that I believe he was cleared for. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was one of their key special teams players his rookie season. And he's a tough runner in between the tackles. So I thought that they would sort of lean on his ability to play special teams. And Chestnut, I mean, as well, he does it as well. But I thought they were going to lean more heavy on him because he was a draft pick and not go the way of Chestnut. But they did. And, it's one of those deals where it's, okay, you kept Chestnut. I don't see anything wrong with that at all because those two guys to me were interchangeable. So it's not a big deal. But the tight end situation, I think that is it's odd that they kept 5 tight ends.
I'll tell you,
I'm
first
surprised
thought,
about.
yeah, I took note when I saw that too. My first thought is, I believe, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, that Ernest Jones is not officially on this list yet.
He is not a part of the roster
Okay.
because I do not believe the trade has been
Formalized, etc. Right. Okay. So I think that you could do this. You could say to Odukoya, who I think is the 5th guy, hey, man, heck of a camp. You have earned this to get to this point in your career. And then when Jones is the guy, when Jones becomes official, that's the obvious place that you would go.
Yeah. You think.
When is the last time you saw a team, especially a team that
Yeah.
wants to run as much 3 wide as they're going to run? I think
Mhm.
carry 5 tight ends. No.
Yeah,
that's
you
not
very
gonna happen.
seldom see a team carry more than 3 tight ends, really. That 4th tight
Yeah.
end really has to duel as a tackle, an extra tackle in a sense, with jumbo and your big personnel, or he's just a hell of a special teams player. So to get past 3 and to have 5, that is it's unheard of. So I do prescribe to what you're saying. Once Ernest Jones is on the roster, then they got to make a decision somewhere else. And it seems like the most likely decision would be the tight end position.
To that point, from Warren Sharp, usage of 3 receiver sets this preseason, the Titans were at 75%, which was one of the higher totals in the NFL in the preseason. The Rams at 99%. That was number 1.
And the other thing that jumps out to me in that is way more than the last several years with Derrick Henry being the focal point of the offense. In fact, let's just look at last year.
That seemed
how
like
many
that's
3
more
wide
than ever.
receiver sets?
So the teams ahead of the Titans in 3 wide receiver sets in the preseason. Rams at 99%, Falcons at 94, Bucks at 93. Rams at 99, Falcons at 94, Bucks at 83, Colts at 82, Raiders at 81, Commanders at 79, Bengals at 76.
Okay, so 75% of 3 wide receiver sets in the preseason.
Correct.
Last year, what do you think it was? I've got it here with the FTN Football Almanac.
3 wide receivers for them.
Yeah, what percentage do you think last year they ran 3 wide?
I would say 40% of the time.
I was going to say 45.
It's a little bit more than you think, but it was 58%.
Okay.
But that ranked 27th out of 32 teams.
Okay.
So they have been, I would say, between 27 and 32 in 3 wide receiver sets over the last 4 or 5 years. Just thinking about what I see. I look at that stat every year. So to keep 5 tight ends doesn't – I know how much they like these 2 guys that work their tails off and sort of unexpectedly got into the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Robinson and Odukoya. Yeah.
Odukoya.
But and so I think they would like to keep them in the house somehow, but one of them's got to go to the practice squad.
But they know they're not going to – if they send David
They only kept 4 corners, too. Like,
I think
low.
they're going to have to pick up more corners, too, because I asked TD that question yesterday. And without the way that the secondary played doesn't represent their depth chart. The depth chart represents they played really well. No, they didn't. They need to be keeping more guys. But obviously, because, well, I guess you can say that the depth chart does represent the play because they only kept 4 of them because the rest of them wasn't good.
Do they just think that those guys will be easily put on the practice squad? I got to believe there's a couple that they
Possibly,
cut that
yeah.
that will end up there. You've got to have more than 4. You can't just at least somewhere on the
Yeah.
on the depth.
I have some context to those numbers from
Okay.
Warren Sharp in the tweet directly
Okay.
underneath the one I read. Teams shifting to 3+ receivers most since 2023. The Tennessee Titans were second, up 19%.
Mm.
The Falcons were first, up 77%.
Oh, well, so the Arthur Smith offense. This is to the preseason this year.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is compared to the preseason this year. So
Well,
the Titans were up
makes sense.
19% in 3+ receivers, which was second most in the NFL behind the Falcons, who were up
Yeah.
77%.
There's a context there because Arthur Smith got a lot of mileage out of a lot of 2 tight end
Exactly.
sets with Jonnu Smith, and then he would have the big, strong Luke Stocker kind of guy as the other blocking tight end, and they had a good rhythm going, and he took that to Atlanta, and it didn't work real well.
But I listen, and Adam said it at the beginning of the show. The 53 right now will not be the 53 once the season starts. Obviously, bringing Ernest Jones in once the trade is completed, then you have to go to another position. Who do we extract from this roster that we've sort of told, hey, listen, you made the team? I'm sure at least this tight end position, I am sure when they brought them in the room, they were like, there still may be movement going on because, again, you kept 4 DBs. The defensive backfield is not a strong point when you're talking depth. So to me, you're going to be looking for another defensive back. And what I saw yesterday, I forgot where I saw it on social media. They were working on a trade for potentially for Bradbury, with Philadelphia. So they do need another secondary player. That's why I say the roster now is not going to be the roster when opening day starts. There will be at least 2 more moves made, one at the tight end position and the other at the secondary position. I think you add one and subtract one. You're going to be able to add 2, Ernest Jones, and then a defensive back and subtract another 2 from somewhere else. So this roster will change again by at least 2 to 3 players because there's no way for a team, the numbers that y'all just put out as far as 3 wide receivers, there's no way in hell they're going to keep 5 wide receivers on the roster, on the opening day roster. For a team that in the preseason ran 3 wide 78% of the time, 75% of the time, one of the highest in the NFL. If you look at last year's 2 and you put their number in where they're slotted at, it's still high. So that tells me they're not keeping 5 tight ends. They're not. They may not even keep 4.
I do wonder if they'll. I think in
'Cause
their
you gotta clear
perfect
2
world,
spots.
you'd like to sneak one or both of the 4th.
It's going to be hard to sneak
Martin Robinson.
Robinson.
He looks really good.
So Warren Sharp says, he writes a little bit about this. He said, in 2023, the Titans used 11 personnel on only 52% of early downs in the first half, number 6 least often of any team. But in the preseason, they have used it at the 75% clip. That was the number 7 most and this number 2 largest year-over-year increase. New coach Brian Callahan came from Cincinnati, which deploys 11 personnel at one of the highest rates in the NFL. So this isn't a huge surprise.
Right. But so that comes back to, all right, now how much better is the offensive line? Because when you, DMase, as you can explain, when you run 3 wides, that's one less big dude to keep in the block.
You leave guys exposed. You leave your quarterback exposed. So if you want to run 3 wides like that, because 3 wides turns into 4 wides, and then you have this spread out offense. But when you have this spread out offense, there's only 5 people to block. And if they bring that extra guy, you better have a hot written into your which
and can Levis read it.
Just about every pass play has an outlet. You just got to find that outlet very quickly, or that hot route. You just got to find it very quickly when they're blitzing off the edge. But again, they have 5 tight ends on the roster. I could see them keeping 3, but anything past 3, it's going to be hard because you still need defensive back or cornerback, because you don't need safety depth. You need cornerback depth. Where's that cornerback depth going to come from? Which position are you going to have to pull away from? Because, again, you still got to sign Ernest Jones because he's not a part of this. So you're going to have to subtract again, unless it's only 52 right now and they can throw them on there. So I don't know.
615-737-1025, our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Derek brings up Ernest Jones. That trade broke during our show yesterday. There's more information out about Ernest Jones that helps give us a better idea of how the Titans will utilize him, what led to his departure in Los Angeles. We'll get into that next. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Willy and DMase, 102.5, 106.3. The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick.
Did somebody call for more cowbell? Is that what happened? Nick, was somebody calling with?
I mean, listen, it's one of the good songs out there, Willy. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Now,
I can't hear this song now anymore and not think of Will Ferrell, and
one of the best SNL skits.
It is one of the greatest of all time. Jimmy Fallon just trying not to laugh the entire time, unsuccessfully.
That to me,
I need more cowbell.
Jimmy Fallon, I don't find to be very funny. I feel like that's the funniest
Really?
he ever was him laughing through that skit.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably holds the SNL record for most times breaking during a show, like
not
laughing.
being able to keep the straight face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of calling, on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, Jane is on the line. Jane has a question for Derek. Jane, go ahead.
Hey, question for Dr. Mason.
Go ahead, Jane. Thank you for addressing
What
it,
seems to be the
Dr.
problem?
Mason. What seems to be your problem?
It's a roster question, not
Yes.
relating to what you're currently talking about, but I noticed, and I try to keep up with Colton Dowell,
Mhm.
local kids, and I see that he's on the PUP list. I knew he was injured. They didn't know what the injury was, how severe it was. Do you know if this is going to be ongoing or hopefully coming off of it? Know anything about that?
We haven't heard, and thank you, Jane, for the call. We haven't heard much about Colton Dow other than he has been injured, or he, prior to him being put on a PUP list, he was injured. I don't know.
ACL.
Yeah, ACL.
Yeah.
So they're going to keep him on a physically unable to perform list as long as they can. When did he have that? He had that knee injury at the end of the season last year, didn't he?
I Googled it real quick just to go back and look. This is something I think that popped up from Paul Kuharski, that he tore the ACL and meniscus in his right knee. This was back in January that they reported. So this was the end of the season. They talked about that. So
Jane, be expecting him to be on it
I
pretty
doubt
much
he'll
the
play.
whole season. Yeah. You need, from the day you tear that knee, you really need a full season. I don't think he's ready. Listen, medicine is a hell of a thing. And maybe he's ready to practice possibly in a few weeks or so, but I'm not sure he's going to be ready to play at all this year. And they would rather, where this team is headed, they would rather keep him on, eventually they have to transition him from the PUP to the IR. And I think that's what will happen. He's a guy that they're looking at, possibly in the future, if he can, make a mark as a wide receiver. He was a really good special teams player when he did play. So we'll see where that go. But right now, I don't think he's in their plans for this season. I think he's going to remain on, the PUP list for now. But then I think they will transition him from the PUP list to the IR because they have no room. They have no space for him. The receiver room is maxed out.
He's just not in the plans for this year. Exactly. So I think they'll take the full year, and he probably needs the full year because he's a fringe guy, right? Exactly. He's a special team guy. So he'll have to, he's probably a question for next year because he's got the rookie contract.
He's under the rookie, he's under the rookie contract.
So I'm guessing he's injured reserve.
I hope we answered your questions, Jane, and thank you for addressing me as Dr. Mason. I appreciate it.
I felt like this was one of those call-in shows, like with Dr. Ruth. It's like,
may she rest in peace.
Yeah,
we lost Dr. Ruth.
We
recently
did lose Dr. Ruth.
A bummer. 90-something years old.
She lived a full life.
Yeah,
she lived a full life.
This is Dr. Fraser Crane. I'm listening.
Maybe that's what we do for Ask DMase from now on. It's actually Ask Dr. Mason.
I'll take that.
We're changing the name of the segment. So yesterday when we were on the air, the Titans made a trade with the Los Angeles Rams. They acquired Ernest Jones, the linebacker for the Rams. Let's see if I have this right. It was Jones in a 6th for a 5th.
Yep.
Right. In other words, it's basically flipping the 5th and the 6th, and you get Jones. Like you're sitting there going, and Jared was in disbelief the entire first hour.
He was trying to look for something.
I was about to say, I get in the car and Jared's like looking for a reason that this happened.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of doing the same thing, right? We got it in real time. And the more we looked at it, the more we're like, wait a minute, that's all they gave up? And you look more and more about Jones, and the more you look, the more he looks like not just an upgrade from what they have, which was your first thought is, okay, this is a lot better than Gibbons, if nothing else. But if you look a little further, he's got some outstanding ratings.
So Jones yesterday, let me rephrase that. Sean McVay, Rams head coach, said yesterday it was a quote-unquote football decision. That's how Sean McVay described the trade. As simple as that. And there has been more context on The Athletic, in addition to our dear friend Joe Rexroad. On The Athletic, there is an article with Jordan Rodriguez, who covers the Rams and the NFL for The Athletic. And she answered the question, why the Rams moved on from Jones. And she said there were multiple reasons. One, the Rams already had made it clear in the spring that they would not be getting an early extension done for Jones. Sometimes they have waited until training camp for these, but when it became clear they were committed to letting Jones play out his 4th season, teams began sniffing around to see if he would be available. GM Les Snead has a saying, quote, if it is inevitable, make it immediate. So that was the first reason. The second, according to Rodriguez, Jones missed some practice time in the spring due to a knee issue, but was back in camp. Yet the time he did miss, plus the Rams' 4 joint practices, allowed the coaches to get a long look at Spates, who's, was it Omar Spates, I believe I want to say it is. He's an undrafted free agent. Yes, Omar Spates. He's an undrafted free agent rookie. And we talked about this yesterday. The Rams do not prioritize that position. They do not spend money on that position. Now they have an undrafted free agent rookie who can come in and play that position on the cheap, so they don't have to pay Ernest Jones. So they trade him. So it doesn't seem like there's any sort of nefarious reason why Ernest Jones is now a member of the Tennessee Titans. He clearly was just not a priority for the Rams. They found someone younger and cheaper to replace him. We can all relate. And now Ernest Jones is a member of the Tennessee Titans.
I still am a little bit like Jared, and I'm trying to dig for something more than what we have been told. Because I do buy into. Look, that is a position traditionally that you don't pay as big. But he is fairly exceptional. Like he rates in the top 5, top 10 in a lot of linebacker categories. Adam, I know you've got some of the numbers. And then my other thought was, okay, are the Rams in some serious salary cap jail? And on the surface, you say, oh, they've got to be, right? Because they did what they did to win the Super Bowl. Exactly. They traded all their draft picks. They doubled down on stat. But, Aaron Donald is gone. I'm looking at their spot rack. They are paying Matthew Stafford $46 million, right? So they have a huge budget at quarterback. They're paying Cooper Kupp $29.7. But after that, I think they've actually navigated this pretty well. They're surprisingly good as a team. They're not in a rebuild.
Well, they still have a quarterback. That's why.
Yeah. So I'm still puzzled. And I'm sure some of these questions that McVay is being hit on and not really answering them. It's a football decision. That's your catch-all answer to not answer the question, right? I still am a little puzzled from the Rams' perspective on why they basically gave him away. They gave him away to the Titans.
You know what? Sometimes, and I tend to tell people this because sometimes when you give them an answer, it's like, no, there has to be. Sometimes the simple answer is the simple answer. It's just that's what it is, and putting it flat on a piece of paper for you. The simple answer is the simple answer. Or if you cook good pizza in the dough, well, you saw me make the dough. The dough is the dough. That's what it is. It's not complicated. I made it this way. It's nothing more. I'm not adding extra ingredients into it. The simple question is a simple question. I mean, the simple answer is a simple answer. They did it. Adam said it was football related. When they say it's football related, it's one of the two things. It's either your play or your pay. One of the two things. And in this situation, we know it's not his play because he ranks high amongst inside linebackers. He's a damn good player. So then I would assume now that it's just the pay. They don't want to pay him. They're trying, even though they have the salary cap seem like managed now, they still want to be able to stay in a place where they can go out and sign guys. They didn't prioritize that position. Like the Tennessee Titans, for so long, they didn't prioritize the receiver position. So when they would get a good receiver, they figure, after 3-4 years, we can get rid of them because we'll just find another one. Y'all are not wide receiver. You can't find another one. I could see if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers and you just been, spitting out wide receivers over the last 10, 20 years, but you haven't been. And the Rams, they feel that they can get anybody to play that position at a cheaper price. And it's not like, we don't like the player. We just don't want to pay the player the money that he may deserve. And the Titans are going to have to pay him, and they will.
They must think they have good depth, too, because the Spates guy, maybe he's good, but what if he gets hurt? Like, this would not have, from what I can tell, this would not have just broken the bank for the Rams to at least just keep him for another year and then let him walk as a free agent. So I'm still puzzled. Or the other part would be if the Titans, because all of us guessed in real time before we knew what the compensation was, and we all guessed fourth rounder that could become a third or a fifth that could become a fourth, something higher than moving up around. Essentially, that's all the Rams got was the ability to move up around in the draft, because the Titans didn't lose a pick. They just moved down around, and they get here's the quote.
They didn't move down around. They just took over they
swapped picks.
It wasn't a necessary. I don't think it was a swap of I guess it was a swap of
it's a sixth for a fifth.
But the Rams get probably an extra 6th-round pick because they probably got a 6th-round pick. So they get an extra 6th-round pick, and they just gave up their 5th. That's all. I think the Rams are trying to accumulate picks now. I
thought they were the F them picks team.
Right.
Back then when they won a Super Bowl, they were the F
maybe they figured out that they do need picks.
Exactly.
But here is the guy that the Titans get. This is FTN Football Almanac. Ernest Jones has grown into one of the league's best run-stuffing linemen. 5th at the position with 15 defeats against the run. That's just one of several metrics they have. There's a lot of analytic sites. I don't want to confuse everybody with everything, but the bottom line is whatever site you're looking at, this guy ranks very high as a run stuffer and a pass rusher. He had a ton of because some people get caught up in the actual amount of sacks. He had 4.5. But the more impressive number to me is his percentage of wins and quarterback pressures. He rated very high there.
So ESPN said he had 17 pass rush wins, which were the most of any player from the off-ball linebacker position. And according to ESPN, a pass rush win is when a pass rusher is able to beat his block within 2.5 seconds.
Okay.
So he is the best off-ball linebacker. But Derek, you made this point yesterday. What does Denard Wilson prioritize?
That middle linebacker.
Who did he have in Baltimore?
Roquan Smith,
and Patrick Queen.
Patrick Queen. Yeah.
He prioritizes this position, which the Rams clearly don't. And now you have Ernest Jones. You put him with Kenneth Murray. You're hoping to replicate what you had in Baltimore from that position.
But isn't there another team somewhere out there that is saying to themselves today, God, I would have given them a third or a fourth
Other
for this
teams
guy?
might have, other teams might have offered something. Maybe the Titans and Rand Carthon, because he used to coach. He was on that staff, not as a coach, but he was on that staff with the Rams, up in the upper management part. He was on that staff. So maybe they just have a good working relationship, just like they have a good working relationship with the Arizona Cardinals. If you have a good working relationship with someone, you're more than likely to take a sort of deal from that person rather than take it from someone else that you don't have a relationship with. So maybe the relationship with Rand Carthon, and this is what the Tennessee Titans have talked about forever, Rand Carthon and his relationships, the way he built relationships. Now it's benefiting them because now he can go to the Rams because he's been there. He has a relationship with those guys. He can say, hey, listen, I know y'all don't want to deal with this. I know y'all don't want to pay him. We can make it easy for you. We just give you a 5th round pick for him. I'm not sure if too many other teams going to give you more than a 5th round pick for him. We'll give it to you. We make the trade. We'll give you a 6th. Okay, let's do it. I'm sure it wasn't that simple, but because I have that relationship with that organization, it becomes simple in a sense.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. There is a text in our text line that I want to get to next that sort of touches on what we were talking about at the beginning of the segment. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. for our college football game of the week, Notre Dame versus Texas A&M, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. Willy and DMase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Adam Vinkin, Willy Donick, Derek Mason. We have waiver claims in the NFL. Get excited, everybody. Let's start with the players the Titans have lost on waivers. I hope you enjoyed the Braden Narvison preseason era because the kicker is off to Green Bay. Braden Narvison has been claimed by the Green Bay Packers. He will join Malik Willis in Green Bay.
We'll have to consult Robbie Stanley on the post-Mason Crosby era of Packer kickers. We know that's not the easiest stadium year in and year out to kick in, and he was their guy for I don't know how long, 10 years
A very
or something.
long time.
But I guess they need a guy.
So Braden Narvison claimed by the Green Bay Packers. Hassan Haskins has been claimed by the Los Angeles Chargers.
And why would that be, DMase?
One, Harbaugh. Jim,
Harbaugh and
that is.
Haskins have a little bit of history. If you're an Ohio State fan listening right now, you're like, "Ooh, do not remind me."
But
Jim, that is.
But
Yeah.
Hassan Haskins off to Los Angeles, now a member of the Chargers. The Titans have made 2 waiver claims, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't know either of these players.
Neither of these guys has played in an NFL game.
We have Ali Gay, a defensive end out of LSU, whom the Titans have claimed from the Houston Texans, and Julius Wood, a defensive back out of East Carolina, whom the Titans have claimed from the Dallas Cowboys. So Ali Gay, a defensive end from the Texans, and Julius Wood, a defensive back from the Cowboys. Willie, you've done some very preliminary research on these gentlemen.
Yes. So Ali Gay, if you're an LSU fan, you probably remember him playing to some degree, but he went to 3 different institutions before getting out of college. LSU was one of the 3. He went to Arizona Western. I'm not sure what level that is. And then Garden City, Kansas. I'm guessing that's a JUCO. And then LSU. He is from Washington originally. He was born in Gambia. He's 25 years old. He, I think, spent most of his time on the Texans practice squad last year. So there's something they like there. He's 6'6", 265. So that's an interesting build. 6'6", 265. So he's not like a big nose guard, right? This would make him over 100 pounds lighter than Tavondre Sweat, right?
Mhm.
So where does he fit? I don't really have a sense, but they must like him if they're doing this, right? They're giving him a spot on the 53. This is not a guy they're signing to the practice squad. There's something they really like from him. And then Julius Woods is a safety from East Carolina. And again, this is a guy that only has preseason numbers. I'm guessing is he an undrafted free agent? I'm looking. It's hard to find any history here. Undrafted for sure.
Mhm.
So an extra safety. This is where your scouting department has to be spot on, because you're losing especially with Haskins, you're losing a guy that you drafted, you put some time invested. Obviously, last year was a lost season because of the off-field stuff as much as anything, but you're bringing in a couple of no names that some scout went in there and said, this guy could help us. These 2 guys can help us.
Well, they value their scouts as much as Rand Carthon talks about the scouts, even Brian Callahan. They value the opinions of their scouts. So if they're bringing somebody in, then they must have seen something out of them, throughout preseason that they wanted them on their team. But again, you add another safety for what? You got 4 safeties as it is.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's like, but again,
I believe Gay, if I've got
over
this,
with yet.
they see as an edge rusher. He's got the
Yeah.
build of an edge rusher. I've never seen him play, but I do believe it's logical that if you're 6'6", 265, you're much more
Yeah.
likely to be an edge. You're not in the interior,
outside
right?
backer.
Even though he's listed
rusher.
at defensive end, that could mean a lot of depends on the scheme.
Well, they can interchangeable from outside backer to defensive end at that with those measurables. But again, I mean, they need depth, pass rushing depth, because besides Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry, there's nobody on this defensive front that is proved. I mean, Arden Key, but he's not really a sack guy. They don't use him to get to the quarterback. Maybe they will now that Denard Wilson is your defensive coordinator. So everybody will have an opportunity to get at the quarterback.
Is this a Rashad Weaver bubble situation here? Do they see Ali Gay as an upgrade on Weaver or who's the other guy?
Jalen Harrell.
No, Harrell. We know what they think of Harrell, but who's the other guy? I'm thinking of the
that play the position
that plays that spot. Yeah, that the
Cedric Gray.
Is it Gibson? Who's the guy?
Gibson?
No,
Gibbons?
No. The outside rusher who played. He got a ton of sacks at the low level of college.
They cut him already. Murray. Yeah, he's gone already. No, he's not. Not Ken. Not
no outside edge rusher.
I know who you're talking about, but I think they cut him already. He's not on the roster because Jalen Harold.
Caleb Murphy.
Caleb Murphy is who I'm
they
thinking
cut
of.
him already.
Got it.
Yeah.
He's already got. So
they cut him already. Yeah. So he's not.
And it's it's okay that I already forgot his name. He's gone anyway.
Yeah, he's gone anyway.
But you always ask yourself, who they bring these guys in, who goes, who loses the job. And I know Weaver was very underwhelming in the preseason. So if it's a swap for swap at that position, or is this where you pluck from the tight end position where you've got 5? The other thing, remember, they have not made the move for Jones yet, right? It's not official where it's taken the roster spot and they've got to make a corresponding move, right? Are we worried about that at all? Like a physical, he's got to pass a physical, something like that. Why hasn't it been announced?
According to Albert Breer, the Titans were one of 4 teams to have claimed multiple players. They claimed 2, the Raiders claimed 2, the Patriots claimed 4, and the Panthers claimed 6. The Carolina Panthers claimed 6 players off waivers.
They need some help.
The Titans are also one of 7 teams to have multiple guys claimed off of their team, Narvison and Haskins. The Commanders, Seahawks, Titans, Colts, and Cowboys had 2 players claimed. The Niners and the Packers had 3 players claimed. This was the text that I wanted to get to from our friend Indy Ben. And this is sort of from the Jared Stillman conspiratorial school of thought. Something funky is going on this offseason. Either some teams are willing to throw a bone to the Titans as charity, like the Chiefs and Rams for Snead and Jones, or there's a reason these players have become available and no one else made a move for them.
That's such an asinine comment, Andy Ben. We love you too. I love you too. But though, Andy, there's no conspiracy behind this. Like everybody's conspiring with the Tennessee Titans to make them a better team. Nobody's conspiring with anybody in the NFL to make them better.
Says the conspiracy theory guy. You love the conspiracy theory. You're saying it's not here.
It's not here. It's just plain old football. There's a wart with just about every guy this offseason that they brought in. Calvin Ridley has sort of a wart. Tyler Boyd has a wart. Who else did they bring in? Adams has a wart. Who else did they bring in? Anybody that they brought in,
not coming off a great season. Pollard coming off a down year.
Snead has sort of a wart, the whole knee issue. So every guy that they brought in has a quote unquote issue at hand. So it's not like, people are giving away players that are perfectly healthy, nothing's wrong with them, and they're playing at the top of their game, and we're giving them away for pennies. No, every guy. The minute they got Snead, what did everybody say? Well, his knee.
Oh yeah.
The minute they got Tyler Boyd, he's getting older. He doesn't have the quickness anymore. His numbers are dwindling each and every year. They went and got Ridley. Ridley is quite not a number 1 receiver. He missed a year. He dropped too many balls. I can go down a list with guys that they got this year that there's some type of wart or red flag. The only guy I don't see that has one is Cushenberry. That's the only guy that I see that he came in and there's no warts.
Yeah,
there's
and
nothing.
They paid him handsomely.
And they paid him.
Again, at a position that a lot of teams try to budget and not pay. He was the top guy. And the Titans were like, this is an extreme need. We will pay the top dollar.
Pollard has his wart.
Pollard's coming off of injury-plagued season where his numbers were way down efficiency-wise from the year before. By the way, so Caleb Murphy, several people have tried to text in and correct us successfully that he is still on the roster.
Yes, he
right
is
now.
one of 5 outside
Okay.
linebackers with Landry, Key, Harrell, and Weaver.
I have to understand I have to say he's a great story, Murphy, but I don't see it. So is this guy better than Murphy? I do think that could be where they go. Weaver is another possibility if that's a 1-for-1, but Ali Gay has not ever played in an NFL game. It's something that they saw in the preseason tape, I'm sure that they like. And he's obviously got some pretty big size. Woods, I'm still looking, the other guy, that Julius Wood, who also he was an undrafted free agent who is a little bit older. He's 23, so he's one of those guys who played a lot of college football at East Carolina, and he was at Blinn College before he went to East Carolina. So there's a lot of long journeys that a lot of recent college players have gone with the COVID and everything like that. But he didn't make the Cowboys, and they liked what they saw. But that's a crowded spot. It's safety. So where does he fit? Right? Can he play corner? He's listed as a safety.
And that's
they need
that's
corners. They only have 4.
Yeah. You went and got a safety. Can he double as a corner? I've never seen the guy play. I don't know anything about him. But obviously their scouts do. So can he double as a nickel corner as well as a safety? I don't know. So you would think that they would go out and get a guy that plays primarily corner. But then again, they may see him interchangeable. So I don't know. But yeah, it would behoove them to go out and get another corner, not a safety. You got a room full of damn safeties. You need corner depth because, frankly, I mean, Brownlee, I like him as a player, but he's a young player and he's still learning. If any one of those guys go down on the front line, you're going to be scrambling trying to insert guys there. Brownlee would be the guy that's up, but would he be ready, say, if Owuzie can't go first game of the season or Snead get a nick and miss a game because of that knee? You elevate Brownlee. Is he going to be ready? I hope the kid is, because I like his demeanor. I like the way he plays, his aggressiveness. He just need more time on task to learn the game on the NFL level.
I've got this text from Ricky saying Murphy has produced every time he's gotten on the field. Am I missing something? I don't. I have in preseason games. He has flashed, but I don't see him as a guy that is the answer. I'm looking for an upgrade if I'm the Titans there. Mm-hmm. They're still a little thin. We're hoping Jalen Harrell is helping that. It's nice that Arden Key is not suspended, but there is absolutely room for an upgrade as an edge rusher.
The Titans have also lost another player. Matthew Jackson is reportedly joining the Jaguars practice squad. So local product Matthew Jackson, according to Justin M on Twitter, has signed with the Jaguars practice squad and could eventually find himself on Jacksonville's active roster. So Matthew Jackson off to Jacksonville. Coming up next, Jonathan Hutton will join us from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. We'll get all of his thoughts on the Tennessee Titans, their roster, what could come with these moves, what other moves might we expect in the coming days before the Titans get ready for the regular season opener, which will be here sooner than you think. Adam Vingan, Derek Mason, Willy Donick, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Wow. Busy.
Willy and DMase, 1025, 1063 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Nick Frazier here with you on Wednesday, and now joined by our good friend Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Hutton, we've been talking about the trade the Titans made yesterday with the Los Angeles Rams acquiring linebacker Ernest Jones, and I heard Jared talking about this yesterday. We've talked about it a little bit. This is a really good player based on what we've read. So we're we're all a bit skeptical. Like, why was this player available? He's pretty good.
Right.
So based on what you know about Ernest Jones and his situation in Los Angeles, what do you make of this trade? And should we be skeptical that the Titans were able to get a productive player for a low cost?
Well, I mean, I think considering where they were with their depth overall, if he turns out to be healthy and it's all good and well there, and it's a player that they want to extend clearly. Otherwise, the trade itself is 2026. It's worth bringing him in. It's intriguing. I'm with you. Why is a player like this available? They're not going to re-sign him clearly, but he's voted team captain. You don't see that often. I know PK said this morning, I believe on Robbie and Rexrove, that maybe he comes in a little bit overweight. Again, don't know. I'll trust Paul on that one, what he's hearing from out west. But all that to be said, it's a player that was well respected early in his career, 24 years old now, final year of his rookie contract. Absolutely, you take this option and the chance here to bring in a player that can potentially be more long-term than some of the options that they have. Look, does he come in and start immediately? I don't know about that because of what Paul said this morning. But optimistic, sure, but add him to a list of players who come in with either injury concerns right now or they're on some type of calendar or have been in order to make sure and identify that they're just getting to the regular season healthy based on whatever injuries they're coming off of in the offseason / last season.
When you look at the Titans 53-man roster as it was released yesterday, I think the thing that stuck out to everybody is the fact that they kept 5 tight ends. Now, that is subject to change and could change very soon, but what do you make of the Titans' decision, at least initially, to have 5 tight ends on their roster?
I didn't predict 5. I think in my roster I had 4. But I looked at it from this perspective. Yeah, you're going to have guys that are inactive, yes. But beyond that, the depth on the offensive line is not great. And I think this is going to be a team that runs the football a bit more than maybe the hype has been through the passing game early in the season. And if you're going to load up and do that, you're going to come out with more of a heavy set in certain situations. You're loading up your roster to do this and form the roster this way. But again, look, Adam, you're right to mention the 53 that we saw yesterday is not going to be the 53 that we see on week 1. And that comes through roster acquisition, through trade, or through waiver claims. And we'll see who they choose to let go. It's interesting. The real surprise, from my vantage point here, would be Odekoya, who has the roster exemption for the extra man on the practice squad because he's the international player. They can have 17 players on their practice squad if they wanted to have him there. And instead of doing that, he's going to be on the active roster, at least as of right now, I believe. So again, that was interesting. He had the hustle play, and I'm glad to see that effort rewarded, because if not, that is the example of what you want to see in the preseason. But again, this time of year, yesterday and today, there's a lot of time spent on guys who aren't really going to be even maybe active on game day right now.
Well, let's bring up
as healthy as they're going to be.
Let's bring up everybody up to speed real quick, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, because we're all curious. the Ernest Jones trade has not become official, so he's not taking up a roster spot right now.
He's got to pack. He has not. He's got to pass a physical.
Okay.
Really.
So now the 53, we know he's going to take up somebody's spot on the 53, and they've also made 2 waiver claims in the last 10 or 15 minutes that have come public. Ali Gay, or an edge rusher out of LSU who was on the practice squad last year for the Texans, and Julius Wood, who is a safety, undrafted free agent who was cut by the Cowboys. So there's 3 guys that are on the 53, correct me if I'm wrong, that will not be there as of whenever these things are official.
Yep. And let's also mention the practice squad is going to include Gabe Giuliani. That's been reported that he's going to sign if he cleared waivers. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he was a waiver claim.
He was not claimed.
Okay, so you've got him. I'll point out the waiver claims. There were 25-ish claims, and the overall number it's around there. I say the top number because 8 of the claims were defensive backs. The league was looking for added depth in the defensive backfield. So the Titans end up with more of a safety, I believe, than corner. But right now, I think this is a sign that they clearly believe that everything's good to go on the outside with L'Jarius Sneed and Awuzie, based on the lack of visual optimism that I have because we haven't seen them on the practice field.
We'll talk with Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow. Check him out. Now you mentioned, the depth of the offensive line, and clearly it's not there. And I think that's going to have to be upgraded because I don't think the right side had any competition. And when you don't have competition, I don't think you play at your maximum potential. But that's neither here nor there. The cornerback position, I am sort of concerned about. Not sort of, I am concerned about it because as much as I like Brownlee Jr., I don't think he's ready yet if you had to insert him into the offense, into the defense, if Cheeto can't play the first game of the season, or Sneed, second game or third game of the season, Sneed may go down for a few plays or whatnot. Yes, McQuarrie is there, but you need somebody else beside Brownlee Jr. because this was a sore spot for them last year. Yes, they did upgrade the 2 starters, and they had to upgrade already with McQuarrie, but you did nothing beyond that to make sure you don't run into the same problem you ran into last year.
Yeah, I mean, Mace, let's be honest here, and I hope you're doing well, brother.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, good.
He's a doctor now. Didn't you know that?
Dr. Mason.
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
We'll talk about that later.
This is a funny story.
Yeah, it's a funny story. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Let's be honest here. If they lose their top 2 corners, they're screwed no matter who they bring in right now.
Yeah.
They're back to what they were last year. This is not NFL quality depth across this roster. I believe, if my numbers are correct, they're going to start 15 or 16 different players than from the starting roster of week 1 in New Orleans a year ago.
Right. Depends on who you count as a starter, but I saw some of the tweets going through this. Like Arden Key, he's one you could debate. Didn't start week 1 last year.
Chigakonkwo.
Right, Chigakonkwo is the other, but you get the point, right? There's a huge amount of new blood.
That's jarring when you see it. 75-ish% of the roster has had turnover, is no longer new players over the last 2 years. Like this is a massive overhaul. So we knew this was going to take time. Rand Carthon is in the offseason talking about the plan, and it's not just one offseason. Clearly, they need another offseason to build what we're seeing. All that said, though, Mace, there's no way that they just stick with 4 corners.
No way.
They've got to make, and keep in mind their practice squad. They can call up 2 players from the practice squad at least 3 times, I believe, individually, and then you have to sign to the active roster. So they can do that on game day, and it's with some guys who have been here through the preseason that I at least thought may make the roster. Not Trey Avery, but Gabe Giuliani. Again, you don't want to see them on the outside, but depth-wise, the option was Trey Avery. We've seen what happens there if he had to start.
Now, were you surprised, because we hadn't talked to you since the trade went down with Malik Willis? Are you surprised that a team was willing to give up any type of picks? Because that would have been, to me, a situation with the Titans whether they were discussing whether to keep him as the third quarterback or release him. I'm not sure why Green Bay just didn't wait for the release, but then again, they could be at the bottom of the pecking order when it comes to free agents, guys that have been cut. So maybe that's why they jumped on it, and they like what they saw as far as the preseason work with Malik Willis. He did improve as a quarterback. He was,
no doubt,
sort of immersed himself into the offense, and you saw a different quarterback than what we had seen in previous years.
So I'm raising my hand here for those listening and not watching us here on the stream. I was wrong in this assessment. I didn't think anyone was going to claim Malik Willis if they let him go, quite frankly. Green Bay just told us they felt like another team would by trading for him and guaranteeing that they have him on the roster. And so the fear of potentially losing him, the Titans were going to cut him, and they get something in return. Great. But the thought on trading him, that's what they should have done if they had the opportunity, which came up. When you consider that to me, there wasn't an available roster spot to keep 3 quarterbacks. And if you look at the numbers, and especially week 1, going into everything, if you look at it from that perspective, then what do you do with Malik Willis if you keep him as the third? You're telling us as the media, the fan base, everyone, that you think Malik Willis is the backup quarterback next year. Otherwise, why would you keep him? To develop him another year and then do what with it? Have him a third string again? Again, they did him right, and they made the right call because he was clearly the third string quarterback. And they signed Mason Rudolph for a reason. Mason Rudolph is a quarterback that has been in playoff caliber type games and won them in the regular season to get Pittsburgh in playoff contention, or to continue that record that they've had for 17 straight seasons or something of a winning record. All that being said, goodbye Malik Willis. Is he starting caliber? No. Can he be a backup quarterback? Yes. And those dudes can make a lot of money. Ask Chase Daniel. So I say this: hey, he's improved. That he played the touchdown, the second touchdown throw, where he stepped up and made a great pass across the middle, a bullet, and set his feet. That is vastly different than the QB I saw 2 years ago. I credit him, and I also credit the coaching staff. This coaching staff made him look better.
And they got a 7th rounder out of it. And Hutton, to further your point, this is what's interesting. Since that trade transpired, you're right, you have to have some sort of crystal ball, but we know you don't actually have one. But you're trying to predict. There were no quarterbacks to this point, and we're scouring the list. There's a lot of waiver moves, but no quarterback got picked up by a team to put them on their 53. So in retrospect, the Packers could have let Malik Willis got cut and not given up the 7th rounder. So the Titans are the only team in the league that got a draft pick for their third string quarterback, right?
They could have had Desmond Ridder for free if they wanted
right, or any number of other guys, Bailey Zappi and all those guys.
Mike White. There were guys out there who you might put ahead of Malik Willis.
So it shows you what the Packers thought of Willis, what the league
and Green Bay could have potentially been the team to claim it.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So don't you think it's interesting? Like, everybody's now wondering what's the next move for the Titans. Surely they're going to try to sign an extra quarterback for the practice
Bailey
squad.
Zappi and Mike White. That's a good comparison. If you want to claim a roster position and put them on your active roster, fine.
But nobody's doing that. Obviously, nobody's doing that because
right?
Zappi, by the way,
another
has been
version
reported.
of Bailey Zappi that can be on your practice squad if you need a third quarterback.
Zappi, it has been reported, has joined the Chiefs practice squad. I just saw that.
Okay.
So
to cross them off the list, but there's a ton of guys like that.
There's a bunch of just guys, right? And I view it. You can you can have a quarterback fit your system, but I don't see much difference in the level and the caliber of quarterback that is available right now. If you really need a quarterback, go sign Ryan Tannehill.
Well, he's waiting for the big one,
No
right?
doubt.
Somebody
But
that gets
not
desperate
here.
and
I'm not
needs
saying
it,
here.
it
I'm
won't
just saying
be here.
across the
Yeah.
league. If you're dire, don't claim a quarterback, not from this group. Go sign Ryan Tannehill and give him some cash.
He's in
I
that
know that's-
slot.
yeah,
Just like
right.
Kevin Lankinen is in that slot, I think, for goalies, emergency, a guy that's unsigned that could help
He's
you.
playing the Joe Flacco role.
Yeah,
this
And I
season.
don't
Wait and
he
see
made
what
$40
unfolds.
million last year. I don't blame him.
Me
Dude made $40 million. Why would you sign now for $5 million?
All right, so Hut, here is a big picture question here that we're going to try to tackle and see
Okay.
what the listeners think. But each of these moves that they have made, and I think the optimism that you see when you watch them, whether it's fool's gold or not, right? They have a good feeling right now about themselves. You see Sweat coming around. They've got Harrell, who's a 7th round pick that looks good. They like what Levis is doing. The new guys, they haven't been decimated with catastrophic injuries, knock on wood. They make this move for Ernest Jones. They look like a team that's trying to be sneaky good and not a team that's in a rebuild. So what are your thoughts when you hear that? It reminds Adam and I, and I'm sure DMase as well. I haven't asked him about it, but a little bit like a page out of the Predators book last year, where everybody was kind of saying, well, the Predators are going to be bad. They're in a new era. What are they? I don't know. And Barry Trotz is like, hey, we're doing that. Be patient. We're building something big for the future. But in the meantime, I don't want to lose. I see the Titans kind of taking a page out of that book.
Well, I would say instead of being the sneaky good team, I think they just see an opportunity to be competitive. And here's the other thing, Willie. They've done everything this offseason with Will Levis in mind. That I think if you look at the offense, it's clear that it was intentional what they've done, not just with the coaching staff and the huge change in philosophy, but Levis now, he's had good preseason. Cool. He's got it in front of him now to have the opportunity to be, is he that guy? Can he be the guy here? Not just the leader of the offense, but the leader of the locker room, the guy. He's got it in front of him. But I think a lot of the optimism is way too high. I'm seeing like 9-10 win predictions all of a sudden now. This is a team, again, that if you consider what we've seen on the injury list the last 2 years combined, and then you look at their depth right now, if I name off one quarter and say they're done, they're going to be on IR for several weeks, or Tavondre Sweat or Simmons goes down, and then one of the tackles goes down. Again, there's several positions where if one guy goes down, musical chairs happens. And then you've got young players. That is the reason for optimism, because they're not bringing back the same guys when fans know what they saw from those players. Now it's new and it's fresh, and it's guys who produced in the preseason. I'm not trying to rain on the parade always, but I am remembering what I saw from this roster and how many new players are in and how many players we just have not seen yet. What 5 of the newcomers on defense are either injury rehab or they're on a schedule because they're making sure that the injury rehab goes as well as it possibly can for week 1. There's a lot of unknown here. But I will say, I think the optimism in the building that you mentioned, Willie, is optimism in the staff. There have been, across the league, a lot of failures for first-time head coaches. And I don't get the sense at all that Brian Callahan is in over his head. I think he's been intentional with his plan. He's been honest with the media, which tells me he's confident in that plan. He knows he's ready for the opportunity, I guess is what I'm saying. He got a chance to prove. Denard Wilson, love his approach on the practice field and how he coaches. There's the youth movement with the staff too. And I think the veteran coaches around both young play callers here give me I'm more optimistic that they're not in over their head more so than I am. This is a team that's sneaky good, even if they get off to a fast start, which they could do. the depth isn't there to sustain them throughout the regular season. I don't buy it yet.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Jonathan, thanks for joining us as always.
No doubt. Always look forward to this, guys, and catch up next week.
Sounds
right,
good.
thanks,
The
Hutton.
game week. Get your game face on.
Hey, I'm taking the money line, North Dakota State. Deion's calling out Feinbaum the day before the game.
Oh,
Give
yeah, I
me
saw
give
that
me
this
North
morning,
Dakota
yeah.
State.
What a disaster that would be if Colorado loses after everything that's happened.
Ooh.
Nine and a
Jonathan,
half point spread. 9.5 points.
Mm.
Just saying. It was 8.5 last week.
you heard
One
it here
possession.
first, guys.
Hutton is taken.
Give me the
North Dakota
FCS.
State.
Thanks, Hutton.
There's always
Appreciate it.
one.
Yeah.
Every Labor Day weekend, there's always one.
You don't want to be that.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Jonathan Hutton joining us as he does every Wednesday at noon. We'll react to what he had to say, but I do want to get into this conversation about expectations around the Titans because Derek, the three of us were talking amongst ourselves yesterday, and Derek brought up a really interesting point that I want to dig into even further, and we'll do that next. Tune into 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on Charlotte. Pregame at 5:20, first pitch at 5:35 with coverage also available on 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds Baseball and 94.9 The Fan presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Tune into 102.5, 106.3 The Game this Saturday for Vanderbilt football. The Commodores will start off the season at home against the Virginia Tech Hokies with pregame beginning at 9:30 a.m. and kickoff at 11. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. And we'll talk about that and more college football with Mitch Light at 1 o'clock. Adam Vinkin, Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you. We were just talking to Jonathan Hutton. And Willy, the question you asked Hutton at the end of our conversation is a question you and I talked about this morning, and something that Derek brought up last night, that the moves that the Titans have made this offseason, the players they have brought in, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, Ernest Jones, Lloyd Cushenberry, drafting T'Vondre Sweat, but let's stick to the veterans specifically. These are not the moves that are made by a team, as Jonathan said, that does not expect to be competitive this season, or expects to be competitive this season. So what I find interesting is they make these moves, but yet there are so many people who are low on the Titans. I heard this morning, Big Joe Dubin, hopefully I have this right, Big Joe, if you're listening. He said he does not see the Titans winning more than 5 football games this season. I think the over-under in Vegas, last I checked, was 6.5.
That has been all summer long. I think that number is held at 6.5. It's not changed.
So 6.5 wins is the over-under, which is low, obviously. But it feels like it's an interesting, I don't know if maybe a disconnect is the right word here, but most people expect the Titans to be bad. I was reading another mock draft this morning before we went on the air that has the Titans picking 7th in the NFL draft, which means they're expected to be bad. But to your point, Willy, about the Predators, there's almost like a Predators-like quality to what the Titans did this offseason. People expected them to take that step back. Rand Carthon, like Barry Trotz, doesn't seem to be thinking that. They want to be competitive. We saw it work out for the Predators. But the question is, I mean, are we a little too low on the Titans? Now, I'm not talking about they're going to go 13-4 here, but like to think that they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I mean, the moves that they have made are not moves that teams that are expect to be bad typically make.
I think there's no question, DMase, says we have said all along that they are trying to give Will Levis every chance to grow in the position. And that is one reason to make these moves, to be competitive. But how well could it be? Let's again contrast the feeling that we're getting. Don't you think we would all say that training camp had a pretty good feeling? You're not sitting there watching this team with a brand new coach, a young quarterback, and all this new stuff saying, man, they don't look good. Like you haven't had that vibe. It's not like you're saying, hey, these guys are going to be awesome, but they look like they're building something, but it is not infiltrating the national picture, right? Here's an example. And Nick, do you have it here? This is from the Ringer podcast. They were doing predictions division by division for the AFC. And then of course they have a different one with the NFC, but just watch how quickly the hosts gloss over the Titans without even basically getting into any discussion where they are even in the plans or could possibly contend. Listen to this.
Texans are the favorites at plus 105, Jaguars at plus 270, Colts at plus 310. So those three are pretty tightly packed. And then the Titans at plus 950. Over-unders here, Texans are at 9.5, Jaguars and Colts both at 8.5. And the Titans are at 6.5. Ruiz, what do you got? Who's winning the AFC South?
Okay, well, and if we took it a little further, he spends about 1.9 seconds talking about the Titans after that. So he did not go against the odds. He was clearly, and the other hosts chimed in, they have the Titans 4th in the division. I want everybody, because I want to know this, find me a prediction from outside of the zip code, that would be, or the area code 615, right? That has the Titans getting to the playoffs. I want to find, if you have one, please text this to us, 615-737-1025. I haven't seen one yet. Have you guys?
No, I have not.
No.
Like it's news if they predict them to finish even third or second, but I don't want to be. I'm looking at the glass half full. I think they could be better than that. Competitive is a broad term, like 8 and 9. Okay, so what do we make of that? Like that's what I wonder. It's a contrast in my mind. I'm fighting that because I've been keeping the bar low in my own expectations, but I've been encouraged from what I've seen.
It is a good question because this time last year, nobody expected anything of the Houston Texans. They had a rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud. They just came off with a 3-13-1 season. Nobody expected the season that the Texans had. And they went from worst to first in the AFC South. And the Texans have loaded up this offseason. There's a lot of hype around the Houston Texans. They're one of those trendy, sexy Super Bowl picks. But who's to say they don't drop off? At this time last year, everybody was singing the praises of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we saw how that turned out. Now, as I said, I'm not expecting the Titans to be a double-digit win team here. But I see a team that in an AFC South that is still, it is improved. The AFC South is improved. No doubt about it. We talked about this last week. But it seems like it's still a little bit in flux. Are we sure that the Texans, despite all that they've done this offseason, are just going to run roughshod over the rest of the AFC South? This division feels like 9 wins, 8 wins. It's good enough to at least challenge for the top of the division. This is not a division where you need to win double-digit games in order to win the division.
It's going to be, it's going to be a competitive division, I believe. Obviously, the Houston Texans, because of their quarterback and their head coach, they are at the top of the heap right now. Obviously, they won the AFC South last year with extraordinary play from CJ Stroud in his rookie year. But I expect the team to take a small step back. They will be missing Danico Autry for the first 6 games, I still believe. You still got to work in Diggs into the offense. How's it going to look? How can you keep these guys happy? Because you got Nico, who's your number 1. Diggs would be your number 2. And then obviously
you have Tank Dell.
Tank Dell would be your 3. Now, he got hurt last season and he's back this year. So can he pick up where he left off last season? But I think because the AFC South has overnight become a little bit more competitive, I think they take a step back. I'm not saying they're not going to win the AFC South, but I do think they take a step back. But if you look at each team, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and the Titans, I think the Titans have done the most this offseason. Why? Because they had to address the most during the offseason. And it's not like they just went out and got individuals to fill, spots so they can have, players. No, they went out and got guys. They earmarked guys that still have tread on the tires, the guys that still can play high level football, whether it's Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Cushenberry, even Tyler Boyd. His role may be a little bit different from what it was in Cincinnati. He may catch a lot more balls in this system, at least the first year, because he's basically one guy that has been in this system and has thrived in it. Then you look on the defensive side of the ball. Sebastian Joseph Day. He's a good player, great player. No, you look at the 2 corners. They went out and got bona fide corners. Now, the problem with them, they need to stay healthy. They need to remain on the field. And then you go get Adams, who, if he's healthy, he's a good player. Is he the player he once was? Probably not. He's not that player, but he's still a good player. Quadre Diggs, over the last 3 years, he has the 5th or 6th most interceptions in the National Football League. So you went and got you a ball hawk, something that you needed now that Kevin Byard is no longer on your team. Kevin Byard was your ball hawk. Now you expect Quadre Diggs to be that guy that Kevin Byard was for you for so many years at a great level. So to me, This Titan team has been intentional in what they're doing this offseason, which makes me believe, as I believed about the Nashville Predators, this team sees a window, sees an aisle and a lane for themselves that they can go through, and they believe that they can not only compete for the AFC South, they believe with the guys that they brought in, 11 on 11, we can win the AFC South. And I believe them. I truly do believe them. Now,
I have
when
the
we go
same
past
feeling.
11-11, I don't have it goes from 100% believing to about 20%.
They need some luck. They need some luck with injuries, but I do think the moves they made make them look much more formidable than they did last year if Levis can take a step and be a good quarterback. Now, let's just finish the thought. I just want everybody to hear the perspective from the outside that we didn't play. Here, listen how quickly they gloss over the Titans here in this quick discussion.
The Colts, like, I have to see it. The Titans, I don't know what the plan is there. They're just throwing a team together like I would in Madden and hoping for the best. The Texans are the only ones with like a coherent plan, a quarterback.
Okay, so there you go.
That's an asinine. That's an asinine comment.
Nobody pays attention. Nobody's been paying attention to this team. He is not alone with the Ringer.
That means
podcast.
you ain't doing a lick of homework if that
But
is
don't you
indeed
think
the
that's
case.
that's what a lot of the people they have not really paid attention to what looks like it's coming together. Tavondre Sweat, this trade for Jones, Sweat and Simmons together, brand new cornerbacks. It looks way, way better on paper than it did last year. Now that they're coming from a low point, but you see what I'm saying here.
But listen,
I think we think that I'm waiting to hear. Hey, are they paying any attention? Like you talk about rookies on defense that could win the defensive rookie of the year. I have not heard one person mention Tavondre Sweat, but I'm very curious to see what he looks like. I mean, but that's not making an impact anywhere nationally.
If these moves were made, let's say the Indianapolis coach made all of these moves or half of these moves that the Tennessee Titans have made, everyone would be saying that the Indianapolis coach they will push the Houston Texans to win the AFC South. I don't see any damn difference. Their quarterback is no more proven than our quarterback.
He's less proven because
Exactly.
he's played fewer games.
He's less proven. Your running back and the Titans running back are essentially, I mean, you may take their running back just because.
I might take Jonathan Taylor. Still.
Exactly. But Pollard is no slouch either.
No, he's not.
The receiving core, I'm taking the Titans receiving core over the Indianapolis Colts receiving core.
I would as well.
There's this thing that goes on within the NFL, and it has happened since 1997, and it's continuing to happen no matter what. Yes, because you have a Derrick Henry, it brings a little bit more attention to your team. But the minute they don't have a Derrick Henry type player, then everybody shifts away from the Tennessee Titans. It's been going on since 1997, and each year they either say, well, we don't know quite what this team is, or this team is, they're not a good team and it's going to take them a while. This team has strategically put themselves back in the mix when it comes to winning the AFC South. And anybody with the football mind can see that. Now, whether this works out or not, that's a different issue. That's with every team in the National Football League. Just because you go out and get these free agents doesn't mean it's going to automatically work. Remember the Washington Redskins back then, now Commanders, what they tried to do, and it did not work.
The Eagles were the dream team.
The Eagles, it did not work, period. So I get that part. But again, you can't look at the Titans based upon where they were the last two seasons and say this is not a vastly, just by the names alone, this is not a vastly improved team. And by them going to get Ernest Jones, I think it even ups the ante even more. This team they will do more than compete. If they stay healthy, this team will push the Houston Texans, and they will push the Indianapolis Colts and Jacksonville to win the AFC South.
615-737-1025. Mike, we see your call. We'll get to it as soon as we get back from break. Call us, text us, 615-737-1025. How have your expectations for the Titans changed over the course of the offseason? We encourage your participation. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, 1025-1063, The Game. Willy and DMase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Adam Vingan, Willy, Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Mike has been waiting patiently on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, guys. So, yeah, thanks for taking my call. Willy, first, there was a Yahoo Sports article on August 13th. Again, it's just one of those things that, like, I get those random pop-ups or whatever. One person, Dakota Zentek, predicted the Titans to sneak in as the last wild card team, but you're right. That's the only.
Okay, so we have one. That's more than I thought.
That's the only person that I've seen that done that. And again, I think that the problem with no matter what moves we make is that there's not a single person that really like thinks Will Levis is going to be that guy. I mean, I can't think of how many different people are already talking about like connecting the dots with Titans to the next line of quarterback, whether it be Shadur Sanders or whoever's out there already, without giving this guy a chance. I mean, Madden gave Will Levis the lowest starting quarterback rating out of any of the quarterbacks, and I feel like that's not exactly fair when we haven't seen. But like, you know, there's some bright spots that, you know, and reasons to think that Levis could make this work. So again, like Tennessee sports get this unfortunate beat, I feel like, with the national publicity that they don't really ever give us a chance. And again, it's fine. We like to play that role as like the Predators, to be that sneaky team. But man, like at some point in time, I'd love to be respected.
Thank you.
This is a decades-long thing, I think. But
yeah,
I would say when you guys got good, DMase, it did change some.
Mm-hmm.
And these last few years, when Mike Vrabel, I think, started to build a national cachet as a coach, and the Titans had strung together, 4 or 5 consecutive winning seasons, and they won a couple divisions, they were forced to talk about them some.
Mm-hmm.
But they have gone back down to, I think, ground zero of one of the most anonymous teams in the league in terms of percentage of the time that the national shows talk about them. I would kind of use that kind of behind the scenes if I'm the Titans in a us against the world. Nobody thinks we're going to be any good. Nobody's talking about us. That can work, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think they have a chance to sneak up on some people. And he made a great point. So much hinges on whether Levis takes the leap.
And I think some of it is that reason, you know. There's a reason. But again, it's like there's not much we've seen of Richardson either, even though the talent is immense, just like it is with Will Levis. The ceiling is high on both guys. But I just don't understand why people would look at Indianapolis and say they're more of a sure hit than the Tennessee Titans, because all of it is based upon the quarterback. You could have the number 1 defense in the league. If you don't have a quarterback, people are still going to project you as being this outside of the playoffs. Look at the Jets last season. They had the best defense in the league, I believe, overall, or one of the best, and they didn't make the playoffs. Why? Because they had no quarterback play. So everything hinges on what your quarterback looks like headed into that particular season. And I think what the Tennessee Titans have done was to help the quarterback out. Everything that they've done, both offensively and defensively, was to fill spots that they needed filled with good players, not just throwing, players in there just to fill a spot with good players. And then also they wanted to lessen the sort of responsibility of the quarterback, meaning he doesn't feel he has to go out and win every game. If I have a quarterback if I could build my defense to a point where it's one of the tops in the league and I can build back up my running game, then I don't have to put so much pressure on a young quarterback. Houston was successful because they were able to play really good defense and they were able to run the football, which opened up their passing game. Even though it looked as if they were putting a lot on the quarterback, they really were not. It's just everything worked out perfectly as he learned time on task, as he learned throughout the season. That's what the Tennessee Titans want to do with Will Levis. You're our quarterback. We want you to improve, but we're going to help you out here. We're going to make you feel as if you don't have to do everything, because when you feel you have to do everything as a young quarterback, what did I say last year? You start developing bad habits. You start developing habits that you got to win. It's like, I got to save the world. And if I don't save the world, we're going to lose. Well, it's not that case this year because we built up our defense. it's supposed seemingly.
I'm really
and we
curious about the
added more on
defense.
offense.
The defense really, I'm curious what that could do. John in Nashville, Texas. Titans are not even being picked as a sleeper team. I think that's 100% spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that says a lot of they're just not on the radar at all.
It has to me. It has to be the quarterback and the depth of this team and then obviously I know the offensive line. I get it. There's still going to be that question mark, and it's a question mark for me, at least on the right side, because I still believe there wasn't competition on the right side, and when you don't have competition, you're not able to reach the maximum potential that you should be at. So I think they may still have problems over there on the right side of the line. But other than that, they've addressed just about every position, and we believe they addressed it in the right way.
I hear what Hutton was saying earlier about the depth of the team, and if L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie go down, the Titans are screwed at that position, for example. But how many teams does that same thing apply to around the NFL? I can't speak to every single team's depth chart, but how many teams? Well, if their top two corners go down, they're porked.
A lot of them.
I think that's an excellent point to come back with. The only thing I would say is I think you're right. There aren't that many that have a lot of depth, but they might have the quarterback that is going to erase some of they can cover for the lack of depth. I'm not sure that the Titans quarterback is at the stage of his career where he can cover for the lack of depth. But that's what we're going to find out. We know this. They have, because the quarterback is young and doesn't get paid very much, they had a lot of money to buy good foundational players who are 25 and younger. Well, that's one of our main themes to start training camp. Of the list of players in the league that are the best at age 25 and younger, the Titans don't have one. And they don't even have anyone really close to the list, right? Roger McCreary, we concluded was their best player under 20, from 24 or under.
Yeah.
You know, it's still not knowing what Skoronski's going to be, what Latham's going to be, guys who haven't played yet, Spears. It's not Justin Jefferson and Trevor Lawrence and some of these guys who are that Micah Parsons is still in that thing. Jamar Chase. Right. They don't have a guy like that.
We do have one piece of news from our friend Teron Davenport. The Titans are waiving Rashad Weaver.
Okay.
According to Teron Davenport, the Titans are waiving Rashad Weaver.
So in a nutshell, at the edge rushing position, they picked up Ali Gay off the waiver wire, who's never played in an NFL game. They like what they see, played at LSU. They still have Caleb Murphy. So they like Murphy more than they like Weaver. So they are basically done with another draft pick from one of those 3 desert Sahara lack of an oasis draft. 20, 21, 22. It's a big.
And they got to overcome them. They got to overcome them. And it's going to
add Weaver to the list.
At the end of overcoming, those failed draft picks, but you never know. So.
We have an unnamed texter who says, it seems ridiculous to me. People aren't picking the Titans to win 8 or 9 games. We won 6 last year with the worst offensive line in the league.
If you are a over-under kind of person who likes to bet and these kind of things, the over 6.5 from where we sit here looks very doable, right? And that is something you hear podcasters talk about a lot, depending on which ones you listen to. But if they slant that way on picks, which I don't. I want the info. I want the insight. That's not something that I think about, but I do think that would be something to think about.
Of course.
You feel pretty optimistic about over 6.5?
Yeah, I feel optimistic.
Just better than they were last year, even if it's just by a game.
This team wasn't good last year. They were playing a quarterback carousel last year because the offensive line was bad and it hurt the 2 starting quarterbacks. For the Titans, and then they had to go in with Malik Willis, and then come back with Will Levis, and then Ryan Tannehill, then Willy, and then Adam, then me. They just went through their quarterbacks, period, like water through a strainer. But if you look at this team, and this is what I heard last year, for instance, with the Indianapolis Colts, and I even heard it on this station. With teams, one was the Indianapolis Colts, and I think there were a few other teams. oh, look at their schedule this year. It's an easy schedule. So they're going to win games. It's an easy schedule. I kept telling people, hey, listen, there's no easy schedules in the National Football League. Y'all must have never played a lick of football in the NFL to say, oh, that's an easy schedule. Okay, since you want to go with that premise, the Titans have one of the easier schedules in the National Football League this year. So shouldn't that mean something to people that said last year for those teams that they felt was going to make a jump? Oh, their schedule easy. They have a last place schedule. Look, they're going to win this game. They're going to do that. Does that mean they're really a good team? Probably not, but because the schedule is easy, they're going to win a few extra games. Well, if you approach that team or those teams like that last year, why aren't y'all approaching the Tennessee Titans the same way? Because they have an easy schedule this year as well. If y'all prescribe to, oh, an easy schedule in the NFL means equates to win. Newsflash, there's no damn easy schedule in the NFL. None whatsoever. The Carolina Panthers came in here and almost beat the Titans, and the Carolina Panthers was considered the worst team. They were a drop ball away from moving the ball down the field and ultimately winning that on a field goal. And they were considered the worst team in the National Football League last year. So tell me how that makes sense.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, Mitch Light from The Athletic will join us. We'll break down the start of the college football season, week 1 of the college football season. We'll get into all of that with Mitch. Coming up next, Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willy and DMase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you, joined by Mitch Light of The Athletic to talk about college football. Now, Mitch, I was looking at the Tennessean earlier this week. May have actually been earlier today. Days run together for me at this point. And I saw a headline from our friend Gentry Estes, columnist for the Tennessean. Is Vanderbilt football capable of upsetting Virginia Tech? Yes, actually, wrote Gentry Estes in the Tennessean. Virginia Tech, 13.5-point favorites against Vanderbilt this Saturday morning, Saturday at 11 o'clock. Do you think Vanderbilt has a chance to win this game or at least make it far more competitive than the bettors think it will be?
Well, good afternoon, Adam.
Hi, Mitch.
I mean, the cop-out answer is I don't think they're going to win, and sure, they can make it more competitive. Week one's historically, you just don't know what you're going to get. Let's look back last Saturday, obviously, with that result, Florida State, Georgia Tech. In the transfer portal era, especially with Vanderbilt this year, we truly, really have no idea. They have so many new players. They've got new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new defensive coordinator. All three starting receivers are gone. So it really is a mystery. I will look at it from the Virginia Tech standpoint. Some people look at this team as a dark horse ACC contender. It took a while. Brent Pryce first year was a struggle. Then they got hot. They played better last year, a lot of it once they committed to Kyron Drones, as the quarterback. Then the other school of thought is, okay, this was a good team. They went 7-6, but who did they beat? Old Dominion, Pittsburgh, who won 3 games, Wake Forest, who won 3 games. Syracuse was the only team they beat with a winning record, 7-6. Boston College, Virginia, and then they did beat Tulane in the bowl game after Willie Fritz left. So I think it almost depends on how good is Virginia Tech. If Virginia Tech, the team that some people think is a top 3 or 4 team in the ACC, and Drones is as good as he was last year, then probably not. If they're just a middle of the pack team and Vanderbilt plays well, protects the ball, sure, that gives them a chance to win the game or make it more competitive.
Now, Mitch, after this weekend's upset of Florida State, will this be a year where this new system is truly tested? Because I do believe that Florida State is not going to be the only team in week one. Now, we just got through week 0, but in week 1 that will be upset. And we know that because now the 12-team playoff, you can potentially lose 2, possibly even 3 games and still get in the playoffs. So do you think it will be tested because we will see more of these top teams losing early on, especially with the transfers coming in and new quarterbacks at that position?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and we're already looking how the committee reacts to certain teams. Now, you should look at each team based on their resume. But if you're a committee member in 3 months and Florida State is 10-2, or whatever, if they make the conference championship game, do you say, well, they had a lot of new players in that Georgia Tech game. They clearly didn't, the offensive line didn't mesh, and DJU is his first game there, and they're a much better team. Like, you forgive them for struggling because they had all the transfer portals. Like in college basketball, there's so many games, your resume, you can forgive an early part of the schedule to get your act together. So I'm just curious how the committee is going to react. And, that's just, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions to make because we're going to see a lot of teams with 2 and 3 losses. And how do you judge a 2-loss ACC or a Big 12 team versus a 3 or 4 loss SEC team? So, not a great start for Florida State, but, obviously they picked a season in which it's okay to lose early because they'll have ample time to get their act together.
Now, looking at it, I know it's early on, Mitch, but the way that the SEC and the Big Ten is set up, do you think the SEC still gets in more teams? Because I'm looking like now, even in the Big Ten, you got Oregon, and many people pick Oregon to win. There are some people that are picking Oregon to win the Big Ten and ultimately go on to the national championship. But it seems like they have at least 2 more teams that have a pathway to the playoff. But do you still believe that the SEC will ultimately get the most teams in?
It's another cop-out answer. It just depends on what, how many teams are there with 2 or 3 losses. And, the Big Ten, you can argue, is almost better position. Like, if all goes true to form in the Big Ten, you got Ohio State, Oregon are kind of on another tier from everyone else. and then maybe Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, USC. Like there's a lot of mediocre to bad teams in the Big Ten, so I think there's going to be a lot of Big Ten teams with gaudy records. With the SEC, there's a little more balance, a little more strength throughout towards the middle. So you're going to see more. So it just depends. There might, like, if there are 4, 8-4 teams in the SEC, those teams might not get in. But if they're 9-3, they got a better chance. But if it's a 9-3 Missouri with that schedule they play, they might not get in. If it's a 9-3 Georgia with that schedule, they're going to get in. It's just so early, and we just don't know because not all these, like I just said, not all 9-3 records are created equally.
We're talking to Mitch Light from The Athletic, talking college football. We got the full slate coming up this weekend. So let's hit on a couple of games, Mitch, of note. Clemson, Georgia, on paper, number 1 versus number 14, intriguing matchup, but Georgia's a pretty heavy favorite here. What is the gap between those two teams?
You know, from an overall roster standpoint, it's pretty large. You know, you look at Georgia; it's a team without many weaknesses, and Clemson's just the unknown. If they are, you know, it's famous. Dabo famously does not plug holes in the portal with the portal. So whatever we're in the offseason with most teams, you're a little weak at cornerback or defensive line. You try and plug some holes there. Clemson has not done that. Does not do that. They are banking on year-over-year improvement. Now, Cade Klubnik was a 5-star quarterback recruit, played last year as a sophomore, had some good moments, some not-so-great moments. It was his first year under Garrett Riley, Lincoln Riley's brother's offensive coordinator, so you would hope that they would take some step forwards. If you're Clemson, what you really want is to see some production at the wide receiver position. You know, they were, during their heyday, the quarterbacks were great, their defensive line was great, but they also had elite wide receivers. They have not had that. They've got 2 freshmen that they're going to play a lot, 2 top 50 national guys. So if they can improve at the wide receiver position and put some pressure on Georgia, I think they've got a chance. If I'm Clemson, I feel better about this game if it's like week 5, not week 1, because I just think right now Georgia's the more complete team.
Tennessee opens against Chattanooga coming up this weekend. They're only favored by 38.5. But going back to what we discussed last week, Mitch, where your group of writers at The Athletic there's 28 of them. They all voted for who they thought could make the playoffs. I believed that a few more votes would come in for Tennessee. They got a couple, but tell me what you think needs to go right for them to sneak into the playoffs this year, which would be a reasonable goal.
Yeah, you know, you look at Tennessee, and as you were asking the question, Will, I was like, you know, what's Tennessee's major weakness? You know, there's 2 things that come to mind. One is just the league they play in. It's just where they fall in the pecking order. It's just difficult to, if you're going to vote for playoff teams, you probably, you know, you got Georgia and you got Texas clearly ahead of them. You probably got Alabama, and then Ole Miss and Missouri, you know, kind of the 2 darlings, and then LSU, if they're getting better on defense, which we think they will, new defensive coordinator, they're probably right now ahead of Tennessee in the food chain there. And then we haven't even mentioned Oklahoma and A&M and Auburn. I think Tennessee, you know, on paper, the secondary is clearly the weakness there, the unproven part of their team. And Nico, while fantastic in the bowl game last year, the landscape over the years is littered with young quarterbacks who played well in the bowl game and then struggled the next year as the starting quarterback. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but he's not maybe the sure thing that a lot of people think. We'll see what happens at wide receiver. You know, they're Chris Brazil, the transfer from Tulane, banking on him to be really good. Need that one game breaker at that position would help there too. So I think it's just a product of the league being really, really good rather than, you know, Tennessee having a lot of weaknesses.
One more game that really has caught my attention, and I probably wouldn't be alone in this, but Notre Dame against Texas A&M. I got a lot of questions about both of those teams. The post Jimbo, Texas A&M, they're playing at home. They're a slight favorite, even though they're not ranked as high as Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has got this brand new way of getting into the playoffs, but they know they cannot be a top 4 seed. It's an interesting needle to thread.
Yeah, and it's a huge opener for Notre Dame, and they are so inexperienced in the offensive line. Charles Jagusa, the projected left tackle. Now he wasn't a returning starter, but a former top 50 national recruit was going to start at left tackle. This is, and Pete Sampson wrote about this, it's one of the most inexperienced offensive lines we've seen at Notre Dame. And if you look at the Texas A&M roster, where are they good? They're really, really good on the defensive line. So that's obviously not a great recipe. Now Notre Dame will counter with a running quarterback in Riley Leonard, who was at Duke last year and can throw the ball pretty well, but he's really effective running the ball. So Mike Denbrock is their new offensive coordinator. Where was he last year? LSU, Jaden Daniels. So I'm sure they'll have a good plan for Riley Leonard to evade that pressure, the defensive line, if some of the young offensive linemen struggle there. So, yeah, it's a pivotal game for both. Obviously, Notre Dame, you look at their schedule, it's not very difficult this year. If they win this game, it really sets them up. I mean, look down. They get Louisville at home. They go to Georgia Tech now. That could be a more difficult game than we thought. They get Florida State at home and at USC. So it's not really a difficult schedule. So if they win this game, they are set up really nicely. And Texas A&M's kind of lurking maybe in that Tennessee area where if things go right, they could emerge as a college football playoff hopeful. Sam Kahn, our Texas, we call him our Texpert, Texas A&M writer at the Athletic, had a really good story today on Mike Elko and the culture there coming from Duke and how it's slipped in the last few years under Jimbo, and now there's an adult in the room, and so maybe just an injection of the new coach and all that could really propel this Texas A&M team.
Now, what do you think of Utah? Because people are picking Utah to win the Big 12 and to find themselves a spot. I even seen in some mocks where Utah would be a team that would get to bye. They would be one of the first 4 teams in because of them being a conference winner. But what do you think about Utah?
Sorry, Derek. Someone just showed up at our house. I like him a lot. Cam Rising, 7th-year senior quarterback. I think he's 25 years old.
Explain that. 7th year?
Sound jealous, Willie? You want to suit him up?
I was just wondering, can I get back in there or something? Like,
Exactly.
how does that work? 7th year, like 6th year, I kind of get. But
the COVID year and then 2 season-ending injuries. So you can apply for. We don't need to get into that, but that's 7th-year senior. I'm a big fan of Andy Ludwig, the offensive coordinator. I thought, you look back at during the Derek Mason era, and when was Vanderbilt good in offense when they had a good quarterback in Kyle Schumer, but then Andy Ludwig did a great job. So I've always been a fan of him. And they are, I'm going to throw out every Utah cliche, tough, hard-nosed, all that stuff, going to the Big 12, which traditionally has been more of an offensive league, but not as much in recent years. Teams are playing better defense there. You got teams like Iowa State and Baylor that have been more physical teams there. So, Derek, I really like Utah or Kansas State to win the league. And as you mentioned, if they win the league, they're going to be a top 4 seed. Everyone needs to get used to seeing these brackets and seeing, Clemson as a 3 seed and Utah or Kansas State as a 4 seed. And don't freak out. It's not because people think they're the 3rd or 4th best team. It's because they're projected to win their league.
Yeah, it's the automatic bid, which Notre Dame cannot get. It's an interesting flaw in the bracket, but it's a necessary flaw, I guess.
But Notre Dame agreed to it as well, too. So their AD was on the committee or whatever that came up with it.
As you have filled out your 12-team playoff bracket, Mitch, do you have any spicy takes on a team that you expect to make it to the playoff or a seeding of a team in the playoff?
Well, I shouldn't admit this publicly, but we all had to submit our brackets. And I was one of 2 staffers. I did it because I'm a rule follower, and the email came in, and I wanted to get it in quickly. I forgot in that moment that there's the automatic bid for the group of 5 team. And so I did not have a group of 5 team in mind. So that's my spicy take.
Shortchanging Memphis or whoever else could be in that.
I don't care what the rules say. No group of 5. So no, then I added Memphis to mine. So I'm trying to think. I don't have it in front of me, Adam. I went pretty chalk. I think I picked Clemson to beat, and I'm not just saying this now, I think Clemson to win the ACC championship, not Florida State. I think that's going to be fascinating in the ACC. Slight tangent, Miami, Florida this week. Can Miami live up to the talent on their roster and maybe overcome some game day coaching there? So, and I think the race for the G5 team, whether it's Boise State, Memphis, Liberty, even though they don't play anyone, is going to be really interesting. But I didn't have, other than maybe Clemson winning the ACC, I didn't really have anything too spicy.
Mitch, we had so much fun last, early part of the season watching Colorado play the first 4 or 5 games. It was unbelievable drama and fun. And I'm coupling this with something that happens every year over Labor Day weekend. There's always an FCS team or 2 that either come very, very close to pulling a huge upset or actually pulling it. Jonathan Hutton came on our show earlier today, and he was making the call for North Dakota State to beat Colorado, who's a 10-point favorite. I feel like there could be drama here. Like, I don't know if they're going to win, but I am very curious, and I feel like with Deion and everything, all the storms swirling around him, this could be kind of a fun game. But tell us, what do you know about North Dakota State? Do they have maybe a chance?
10-minute heads up before the show, Mitch. Could you do a little North Dakota State research? Would have been nice. I'm not just kidding.
Do we have any general thought? Like,
Yeah.
are they supposed to be good? Like, I'm assuming that they've been really good in the past, right?
Yeah,
North Dakota State.
they have, from when they won the 3 straight national titles, they have taken a half a step. They've actually been passed they've been jumped, should I say, by the Jackrabbits of, how about that, from South Dakota State. Their rival has kind of passed them on the.
No shame in being jumped by a jackrabbit, right?
Yeah. On the food chain there. There is an interesting note about them in the offseason. Their head coach, Doug Ince, I can't remember, ENTZ is his last name. He left to be a linebackers coach at USC under Lincoln Riley. So you don't see that very often. A championship level FCS coach leaves to go be a position coach. So they have a new head coach there. Can't tell you much about their personnel other than they've been good. And this sounds like a cliche, but they're a program that expects to win. And, they're going to go down there. I'd love to be in their locker room for the game. We're the blue collar team. No one's ever heard of us. Tough guys, grew up on a farm, and we're playing these pretty boys from Colorado and all the NIL deals. So it's going to be fun. It's Thursday night. Colorado is improved, but again, it's a portal program. 5 new stars in the offensive line. How are those guys going to mesh? We know they've got a great quarterback, and Travis Hunter's one of the best players in the country. And if you forget Will Shepard, the transfer from Vanderbilt, 5th-year guy, I assume we'll be starting at wide receiver there. So they're good at the skill position. So I am for Thursday night. I'm definitely looking forward to watch that game.
Mitch Light from The Athletic joining us, talking about college football. Mitch, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the games this weekend.
You too, guys. Take care.
Yep.
So DMase, what do you think? We do have underdog picks debuting tomorrow at noon.
Spoiler alert. I'm not picking South Dakota State.
Or North Dakota State.
Or North Dakota State.
I don't know
to
who
beat
South
Colorado.
Dakota State plays.
Yeah, to pick Colorado, to beat Colorado. Now
you're not
will it
opposed,
be
though, to
tough-
take a little guy.
Oh,
to
yeah, I'm not
upset the
opposed.
big guy.
Oh, I'm not opposed to it. But then again, sometimes you just know what you know. And what I know is it's going to be hard for them to beat Colorado, regardless of what you think of Deion and his, overturn of the roster. They still got Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, and he is a hell of a talent. They still got Travis Hunter that plays both ways. And they've upgraded at certain areas. They still going to have an offense that tries to get the ball down the field because of their quarterback. So, the part we don't know about is how good would their offensive line be, and will their defense be able to stop a nosebleed? Because last year they couldn't.
Here's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for Colorado to lose, and then for Sean Keeler, the Denver Post columnist, who's banned, was not allowed to ask questions of Deion Sanders, to ask the first question of Deion Sanders. We'll see what happens.
Do you think Deion had the guy from Seinfeld ban Keeler? Because remember the guy from Seinfeld in the grocery store? You're banned. Jerry, you're banned. I think Deion should have brought that guy in to ban the guy. Just do it right if you're going to do it.
Oh, man, don't get me started on the whole
Because
thing.
Deion didn't do it. He sent the guy in there, and they laid out in an email why this guy was banned. It's a heck of a story, right? And it is. It's gotten a lot of controversial reviews. He's not the first guy who's been banned. There's some people in this city that have been banned from various places.
Oh, wow.
It was this. I'm going way back in the
Okay,
history
way back.
of sports talk. Like it involved Greer Stadium and the sounds, and a former co-host of mine, a mentor of mine.
I feel like you're narrowing it down a little bit.
Well, Plaz and Joe Biddle got banned from Greer Stadium for a period of time. It was quite comical. It became, of course, a serious hot topic on the show for a while because George was talking too much Braves to Larry Schmittou, the great owner of the Sounds at the time. Larry thought they should be talking a little more Sounds on the show.
He got banned.
Joe and George got banned.
Did he have a picture at Greer Stadium? Do not allow this man.
I don't know I don't know what they got the message. I don't think they had to put signs up, but it was only temporary. It was resolved after a while, but there was a ban.
It's never.
I
Good
think
to
that
be
might
there.
have even been before the Seinfeld ban. when Jerry got banned.
So they got it.
Was it a grocery store that Jerry got banned from? I don't remember. What was the
It was
grocery store?
Kramer. Kramer got banned because the peach was bad, and he said, "Well, what am I supposed to
It
do?
was
God
Kramer.
makes the peaches." And he goes,
I
"I
thought it
can't
was
tell you."
Jerry.
Well, I think Jerry eventually did
Yeah.
get banned as well, but Kramer was first to get banned, and then Jerry.
And then Larry David got banned from Mocha Joe's, right?
Yes.
But then he had to build a whole spite store.
Yeah, he
because
has a
of that.
spite store, Latte
Yeah.
Larry's. I have a hat. My wife got it for me for my birthday or Father's Day or something.
So
She-
all this to say, the Colorado game on Thursday night.
Yeah.
I'm saying from an entertainment standpoint, there's a lot of avenues here.
Oh,
that this
there
could
will
be
be.
fun.
I am rooting
Absolutely.
heavily against Colorado for maximum chaos. 615-737-1025. There was a story I came across yesterday about a player, a well-known player in the NFL that apparently the Titans may have been interested in trading for. We'll get to that next. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, 1025, 1063, The Game.
You know, this whole place is going downhill. I could have come in here last week with a bad plum, but I let it go.
Well, I got a perfect solution for you. Take your business elsewhere. I don't want your business.
Oh, now you don't want my business.
No, I don't want your business. And at this moment, you're banned from this store. You're banned.
Well, what am I going to do for fruit?
Oh no!
It's never good to be banned. Never good to be banned. Kramer being banned. Adam in Portland texted in, and said that Jerry got banned from the convenience store for bouncing a check. Then his parents caught wind of it and tried to send him $20.
Seinfeld history. I'm a little foggy. It's been a little while.
I'm much more up on my Curb Your Enthusiasm history, which is why I was very excited to hear about the Spite store. But I was reading a story yesterday in the Philadelphia Inquirer about the Eagles, and specifically James Bradberry. So Bradberry made the Eagles 53-man roster. He switched from cornerback to safety this summer. But it appears that Bradberry's time in Philadelphia is numbered. I want to make sure I have that right. He went from cornerback to safety. So in the article in the Philadelphia Inquirer, about halfway down, it says this, quote, although Bradberry has cleared a noteworthy hurdle by making the initial roster, there's still potential for him to end up elsewhere in the coming days and weeks. The Eagles had discussions with multiple teams, including the Tennessee Titans, where former Eagles defensive backs coach Denard Wilson is on staff, about a potential trade involving Bradberry in the lead up to Tuesday, according to the Inquirer's Jeff McLean. So according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Titans inquired about James Bradberry of the Eagles in the lead up to cutdown day. What do you think about that? First, about Bradberry switching positions and a potential fit. I'm not sure it works anymore, but the idea of James Bradberry in the secondary for the Titans.
I'm not sure, how that would have worked out. The reason you move from corner to safety is because you lose foot speed. You lose the ability to, move laterally and turn your hips at a quicker pace, or quick speed than you used to. So they feel you're still a good player. The IQ is still there, but as far as the physical tools, they may not be there anymore. So what do? We want your other team, so we switch over to safety. I'm not sure that works for the Tennessee Titans. They already have 4 safeties on the roster, 5 because they just acquired another one. Yeah, but I think he may go to
the kid's name from
practice squad because he hadn't played much anyway, so they may transfer him right to the practice squad. I don't see a space for James Bradberry because of the switching of positions. Again, when you go from corner to safety, they don't believe from they believe from an IQ standpoint, you can still play the game, but they don't believe from a physical standpoint, you can play at a level that would warrant you being on the outside. So they switch him to safety. And again, I don't think Titans need any safety help. They need cornerback help. Now, if they're willing to put him back at corner, that's a different story. But if you trade for him, what are you giving up? A 7th round pick? I just wait for the dude to be cut.
Yeah,
if indeed Philly do cut him, I don't think they will, but if indeed they do cut, I just wait for him to be cut rather than giving up a draft pick for a guy that's sort of a tweener.
As part of the story, it says the Eagles will take on the brunt of Bradberry's salary, regardless of whether they keep, release, or trade him. The team signed him to a 3-year contract with $20 million guaranteed in 2022 and won't get any meaningful savings by offloading him as a result.
I would tell them to take 90% of that contract. That's what I would tell him in order to get him.
He's 31.
All pro not too long ago.
Yeah, I'm still in the mode of and let's take the trade they supposedly made. I guess he's got to pass the physical. We still don't have any resolution on that, right? Mm-hmm. The confirmation of Ernest Jones, the trade. But Ernest Jones is 24. He could be a piece not only to improve and upgrade what you have this year, which he clearly would be, but also a guy that you can envision signing a next deal and play for a while. Bradberry looks like a stopgap 1-year kind of guy. I'm not giving up anything for that. I would hope that you could, like you said, DMase, wait for him to be cut. Mm-hmm. Then maybe you talk. And it is interesting that they're sitting there right now with all this shuffling. They picked up a safety in Julius Wood, right? They picked up Ali Gay, an edge rusher, and cut Rashad Weaver. But you still feel like there's some shuffling that's mm-hmm. still going to take place because they definitely need another corner somewhere in here.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah, they're gonna need another corner. And
But a
it's not-
31-year-old guy, that
That's
doesn't
what he
seem
doesn't-
like that's not perfect to me.
he doesn't do anything. He doesn't push the needle or move the needle in any way. Over the last 3 seasons, he's only had 8 interceptions. He's finished each season. It seemed healthy. He played 16 games last year, but previous to that, the last 2 seasons before that, he played all 17 games. So the durability is not a question. It's just you've lost a lot of what made you a good it doesn't fit. It doesn't seem like a good fit for the Titans. Maybe before they went out and made a few transactions yesterday or today, it probably would have fit. But right now, as they sit, it seems to not fit. But then again, they can make a trade and cut one of these guys that they brought in. So you just never know. You can't have enough good defensive backs or defensive backs that have high IQs that have played in big games. You can't have enough of those guys. But I just don't see a place for him here with the Titans unless they make some moves to get rid of some guys to bring them in.
We did have some other major news in the NFL over the past hour. Russell Wilson will start at quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in their season opener.
There you go, Steel Country.
Against the Atlanta Falcons. Russell Wilson named the starting quarterback over Justin Fields for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Your predecessor to Mason Rudolph.
That's an interesting team.
Not
It's an
really a
interesting team.
surprise, right?
No. I don't think it's a surprise. Like I don't think a lot of people would have been saying if you're not going to start Wilson on day one because he's not cheap.
No.
Right? He's not
Well,
as
they're not
expensive
paying,
as he
they're
was.
not
to the-
paying him.
Right. The Broncos.
They
are
only
still
paying
paying
him
a
a
lot.
couple $1 million,
Yeah.
I think.
But like some people would say, well, why don't you just cut Wilson if he's not going to start? I think it's easier to start with Wilson and then go to Fields than vice versa. So if it's close, I see why you would go with the veteran first. But at some point, I think we're going to see Fields get a shot. And I've been hearing some optimism, just a new set of scenery, maybe a little bit more confidence instilled from Mike Tomlin. I'm intrigued with Fields eventually.
Yeah.
But not at the start. I'm not a big believer in Wilson at this stage.
Wilson he's an okay quarterback at this point. I think when you look at his numbers last year, they may be a little bit deceiving because his touchdown to interception ratio was one of the best in the NFL. It was very low. And he's not accustomed to throwing interceptions anyway. He's typically careful with the ball. But even with him having 20 plus touchdowns and less than double-digit interceptions, I believe he did have, people still don't think Russell Wilson is the guy he used to be. Even with a good season he had last year, they still figure, man, if Sean Payton gave up on you, even with the season that you had, if you're basing it upon numbers, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. Sean Payton gave up on you, then the outlook for Russell Wilson isn't great in some people's eyes. So Steelers fans, I feel for y'all. I really do. Well, no, I don't, because I don't like.
I was about to say,
I'm
how
not a
could you
Steelers
have
guy.
any warm and fuzzy feelings for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I really.
I know
don't.
you like
I was
Mike
just,
Tomlin,
I was,
but not-
yeah,
not
I
the
like
Steelers.
Mike Tomlin, so he gets that. That's
We're talking
an extra
about the
point.
uniform.
Yeah.
We're talking about the uniform.
When it comes to the uniform, no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tyler on our text line, this is a good question for Derek. Tyler on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, asks, do you think the Titans are going to play Molden more at nickel, and that's why they are only keeping 4 corners and claimed another safety?
They could put him put Elijah Moore at corner at times when teams are going, 4 wides. You can then bring down Molden. He has played some corner. So
I think we would say he's probably the dime
He's
back,
the
right?
he's the dime back. He's the interchangeable guy that can come down and play safety and play corner, because you definitely don't want Adams to be that guy. Now I don't know about
Hooker is a little
Diggs. He
bit.
can
I
be
think Hooker can do some.
Hooker
coverage
can do
things.
it too.
I'm curious
so-
how they use the 2 new guys, right? And it's a
Yeah.
new system, and you've got Molden and Hooker kind of coming back from the old system.
Yeah.
But the usage of those 4 guys, because I think they'll be on the field, right? That probably has them in their mind saying maybe we don't need as many corners, but I still see a space for another corner,
I
right?
could see And listen, it may be Diggs and Adams starting. I don't see it. I see Hooker and Diggs starting because those two guys remind me so much of Hooker and why am I forgetting his name now? Byard, Hooker and Byard. That's who Diggs and Hooker remind me of because both of those guys are interchangeable. Just like Byard and Hooker were interchangeable. One guy can come down and play in that, that rover position. The other guy can play in the middle of the field and then vice versa. I do believe that Byard was a better cover guy. But if you're talking about interchangeable, they both had sort of the same skill set. I'm not saying that Hooker was better than Byard because that's ludicrous, but the skill set was there. And I think the skill set is still there with Hooker and Diggs. Now, whether they choose to start Hooker, that's up to them. But I think if you want to get the maximum out of that position, you start those two guys because they're interchangeable. Adams is not a good cover guy. He's more of a box safety. He's a blitz guy. You can put him when you get in the red zone because he doesn't have much field to cover. You can throw him in there as another big body that could potentially at times, because it's short field, cover the tight end. But I damn sure wouldn't have him covering a running back coming out the backfield or a receiver.
Did somebody call for Ludacris, by the way? That commercial? Like, did somebody call for Ludacris? He appears out of nowhere. Yeah.
I must have missed that commercial.
DMase, you haven't seen that one?
I don't think I have.
I believe it's a State Farm commercial, right?
Yeah, State Farm. Yeah.
I wasn't going to give him the free plug, but yeah, that commercial runs a bunch if you're watching. Maybe it's just the teams I'm watching. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So it's just how they're going to use it. I don't think Bradbury is a consideration anymore. He could possibly be, but what would Philadelphia want in return? Because anything more than a 7th round pick, I'm not giving it to you. So will it be off the table, or is it off the table now that the Titans have made a minor move today in regards to their safety position?
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, I want to talk about one of Derek's favorite subjects. We will get to that next. Tune into 93.3 FM, Totally Hits Nashville, this Saturday for MTSU football. The Blue Raiders will open the season at home against Tennessee Tech. Pregame at 4:30. Kickoff is at 6. Coverage also available on the 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com.
Okay, time to tell you about Loan Pronto. Rates have fallen. They've gone down into the 4s. This is the best rate that's out there in years. So if over the last couple of years you did a mortgage and the rate was high, over 6, over 7, whatever it was, if it's over 6 for sure, call Loan Pronto now because you're going to improve your situation financially in a big, significant way. You're going to save money each month, and you can skip your next 2 house payments with the zero-cost rate reduction home loan from Loan Pronto. You can lock in a lower rate, no closing costs, and it's just a matter of days this process can be finished with almost no paperwork and usually no appraisal. So don't wait any longer. Call Loan Pronto now and ask about it. They can give you a rate quote in minutes with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees like some of the other guys. Call 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Willy and DMase, 1025, 1063 the game. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Stillman and Company coming up next at 2 o'clock. But before we get to Jared, I've come to understand that one of Derek's trigger words is Josh Allen. I've come to learn that recently.
Shakes right there.
Mention Josh Allen around Derek Mason.
Yeah. The temperature rises.
The temperature rises. It's not as hot as it is outside, but it's pretty dang hot.
Pretty close.
So I think this would warm Derek's heart. There was a anonymous poll of 103 NFL players done on ESPN.com answering 6 questions about quarterbacks. For example, there's a question of who is the GOAT? And if it's not Patrick Mahomes, what does he have to do to get there? By the way, the results of that poll, Tom Brady 85, Mahomes 7, with several other players receiving votes. So clearly Tom Brady still considered the greatest of all time among players in the NFL, although he has retired. But I'm going to go down to the question of most overrated quarterback. And at number 1 with 11 votes, Josh Allen. Josh Allen, according to his peers, 103 of his peers, is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. When voting for Allen, one NFC West player said, quote, too many turnovers.
Was that you, Derek?
Derek
grab
never
somebody's
played in the
ballot?
NFC West.
I think Derek got somebody's ballot and just put it in there.
Just put his name on there.
Yeah.
And this is why every time we talk about quarterbacks and elite quarterbacks, tier quarterbacks, whatever you want to discuss, anytime we talk about that, I look at, okay, what is the turnover ratio of all of these guys compared to touchdowns and winning and all this other stuff? And you look at Patrick Mahomes, and his interception touchdown ratio is better than Josh Allen's. It's a lot better than Josh Allen's, I believe. Josh Allen over the last 3 seasons have thrown, was it last 3 seasons, 4 seasons, somewhere around there? He's thrown more interceptions than anybody not named Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor threw 60. He's thrown 59. I think it's a course of 5 years. What is it, 5 years?
I do have some notes for you, according to ESPN. Since it says the start of the 2008 season, but I think they meant 2018. Since the start of the 2018 season, Allen's 102 turnovers lead the NFL. Jared Goff is second with 96. Baker Mayfield is third with 91. So most turnovers, total turnovers,
fumbles and interceptions.
Yes, 102 turnovers in his career.
You can't be considered an elite quarterback when you lead all quarterbacks in that category, and you haven't been to a Super Bowl yet, let alone win a Super Bowl. And each time you lose, you have lost to the guy that eventually, I believe, won, and that's Kansas City. Josh Allen is a good quarterback, a damn good quarterback. I'm not going to take that away from him. But when you start talking elite quarterbacks, he's nowhere in the vicinity of Patrick Mahomes. He is not. He and Patrick Mahomes are not on the same plane. He and Patrick Mahomes is not driving the same car. They're not living in the same house, not in the same area code. He is not as good as what people think he is. Him before Diggs and Gage they were wondering, is he the guy? We don't know if he's the guy. So all of a sudden they go get Diggs and they draft Gage and they get some other players, and all of a sudden now we start throwing the ball around and he's that dude all of a sudden. Let's see him without those guys this year. The whole thing is going to change. They're going to run the football more now because Josh Allen isn't a guy that I would say, I'm going to put the game on your shoulders each and every week because you're going to elevate my team and you're going to win. Mahomes does that. I don't even put Joe Burrow in that air that Mahomes is in, because he hasn't proven what Mahomes have proven, that I can do it with Derek, Adam, Willie, and Nick as my receivers. As long as they catch the ball every now and then, I can win a game with just those guys. Burrow hasn't proven it, and Josh Allen damn sure hasn't proven it. Has Josh Allen got to an AFC Championship game, and did they lose? Absolutely. Was it his fault? No, it wasn't his fault. But y'all are putting him in a space that he doesn't deserve to be in. Hasn't been an MVP, hasn't led his team to a Super Bowl. If that's the case, Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. Brock Purdy has led his team to a Super Bowl. He has been damn good during the regular season. But they don't put Brock Purdy as an elite quarterback. Why? Because he's just not. It's the people around him. Josh Allen, he falls under that same category to me in regards to who's elite and who's not. He's not an elite quarterback. He's a very good quarterback, but he's not. Elite quarterbacks elevate their team. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Mahomes. You can name the list of the few quarterbacks that have won and elevated their teams to a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl win. He hasn't done it. And until he does it, how can you consider him in the same space as Patrick Mahomes? There's only one guy in that space, and his name is Patrick Mahomes, and he's alone by himself.
He is alone by himself. I agree. Here is a case, and you guys, react to this from FTN Football Almanac. Josh Allen isn't just ridiculously talented anymore. He's learned how to play quarterback. His interceptions, and he had 18 last year, have been far less costly on average than typical interceptions because they often occur down the field and or on third downs. Now, that's a deep dive that I've never really heard before.
So it's okay for him to throw interceptions on third down?
I'm just telling you what they wrote.
That's asinine in itself.
Or if he takes a deep shot toward the
right,
end zone,
it's more like a punt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the case that's been made. I guess statistically, you could make the case that it doesn't hurt your team as much. If I wing it down the field, I'm going for the big play. If it's picked off, then it's like a 40-yard punt.
It's a momentum
I
thing.
get that.
It's still a momentum thing.
It's still a turnover. I get that. He also says, this is Aaron Schatz and his group, he is cut down on his interception-worthy throws. Remember, that is a stat that they keep in this thing, is not only the ones that are actually intercepted, but ones that are like, oh boy, that easily could have been intercepted.
What did he cut it down to?
29 or 25 last year. So less than before. He had 34 the year before.
Oh, wow. So he cut it down by 6 throws. Good Lord. By 9 throws. Well, good job, Josh Allen. Good job. That elevated you to elite quarterback status now.
He also he cut the fumbles down. He had 7. He had 13 2 years ago. That's way too many. But he also avoids sacks better than most, and he obviously is a good runner. So he compensates from the chances he takes better than a lot of quarterbacks. But at the same time, I tend to agree with you. If you're trying to compare him to Mahomes, it's not a comparison.
But that's what you're doing when you put him in
the top
tier.
10.
Exactly. Yeah. You're comparing him to the only other guy.
But you would take Burrow over him 10 times out of 10?
Oh, hell yeah, I
That's
would.
the other guy in the tier 1 of the
Absolutely, because I think Joe Burrow, I believe in him. He doesn't look, even at his early stage in his career, he looked nothing like Josh Allen. Now, I will give it this. He didn't start off like Josh Allen started off, meaning personnel-wise. But even that, he was able to still do some things before he got injured and couldn't finish out his rookie year. He came back, played exceptionally well. They had Chase, they had Higgins, they had Boyd. They had a better offense. But I still believe even without all of those guys, he probably could elevate his team. But I don't even put him in the space that Patrick Mahomes in. But that would be the one guy other than Lamar Jackson that I would put in that space. But I'm not putting Lamar in there. Why? Because he hasn't even reached the AFC Championship. I think he's damn good, but he hasn't reached the AFC Championship yet, so I'm not putting him up in there.
Josh Allen ran for 15 touchdowns last year. 15 rushing touchdowns last year. That's impressive.
He might have to do more of that, considering the quality of his receivers.
That's a big question.
Has diminished. He's got Curtis Samuel. He's got Khalil Shakir, I believe his name is. Keon Coleman. It's a much different group because Gabe Davis also gone, as well as Stefan Diggs. The other two quarterbacks that were tied for second. So Allen was the most overrated based on the voting done by these 103 NFL players. Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa were tied at 2 with 10 votes each. I did love this quote from a NFC East player. Quote, how hard is it to throw jump balls to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith as it relates to Jalen Hurts being one of the most overrated quarterbacks? A lot of the quarterbacks got votes. Allen had 11. Hurts and Tua had 10 each. Justin Herbert, 9. Lawrence, 8. Deshaun Watson, 7. Kyler Murray, 6. Purdy, 6 in terms of overrated quarterbacks. So
Kyler Murray got he's been out of the picture.
I didn't
for
think
a couple
he was
years.
overrated or rated at all. I mean,
he did. I didn't think he was really rated.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he hadn't done much.
He's kind of unknown
since that one season that he started off like game busters and then ended up getting hurt. But
the Jalen Hurts one is interesting because his stock has definitely dropped. Right?
Where would he be without the tush push?
Right. And the whole team has kind of like, what the heck happened? Like they were 10-1 last year after going to the Super Bowl, and like they're a machine. The tush push and all that stuff was the big, and all of a sudden, like they can't beat anybody. They couldn't beat anybody.
It was a rough second half of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles, for sure. But you weren't lying about getting Derek worked up. Now I know.
You pushed the button.
Anything else I should know other than Josh Allen? Anything else really upset you like that?
It's just Josh Allen, really.
Okay.
And again, I'm not saying that Josh Allen isn't a good quarterback. I think Josh Allen is a damn good quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback, a top 5 quarterback, wherever you want to put him. But when you start talking elite, there's only one guy in that class. One guy on one guy on it, because the other guy retired in Tom Brady, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Nobody has sniffed what Patrick Mahomes has done just yet.
Well, keep an eye on what Josh Allen has to do this season just to see how Derek reacts.
I think there's a conspiracy theory around it for me. I think the NFL's invested too much money into Josh Allen, and they're putting him as an elite quarterback.
Josh Allen is Dan Marino.
I thought they were investing too much money in Travis Kelce. I thought that was the conspiracy theory.
Well, I'm more on that too. I'm more on the Josh Allen invest too much money into him, but that's
I don't know. I thought there was a conspiracy to get the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Didn't I hear that?
That was out there. That was certainly being circulated.
There was going to be a proposal on the field at the end of the game.
What happened?
That hasn't happened yet.
Maybe it's this Super Bowl if they end up winning.
That's something I have not thought about for a while, but like when week 1,
get ready.
Are we going to start that whole train up again? I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I hope not. I hope not.
No,
I really do.
It's definitely going to happen again. Now,
I mean, it'd be good for Kansas City in their pocketbooks if you start it all up again.
We'll see.
Every TV producer in the truck has got to be how many times are you going to show?
They did studies about this, and it really wasn't all that much that they showed Taylor Swift over the course of the season. But now I know if I ever want to tick Derek off, just say Josh Allen.
Say Josh Allen is elite.
Yes, okay. Like Joe Flacco, your friend Joe Flacco. Stillman and Company coming up next, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Be love on your people. Have a wonderful and blessed Wednesday. Peace.
For every boy and every girl.